All right. We are live once again with the Tipping Point Morning Show. It is Saturday, July 30th, 2022. And guess what? This is literally the only Saturday, July 30th, 2022 that you will ever get. So make today a great day. Remember, this is the only July 30th, 2022 that you'll ever get. So, like I said, make it a great day. Brother, my brother, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's make it happen.
All right, man, let's do it. Hey, like I said, y'all, it's the Tipping Point Morning Show.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. Right here on WLOU. Streaming live on Facebook and WLOUonline.com. And now, The Tipping Point Show.
Hey, once again, it's Saturday, and I tell you what, we're back. We're back with an amazing topic and everything. We're gonna be going back, way back. We're gonna take y'all back. We're gonna go back in time. We're gonna bring some information forth today. How you doing there, family?
Man, I'm awesome. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Hey, it's yours truly, Mr. Just Ask Joe, and my brother from another mother, brother John Yah, Esoteric Concepts himself. Man, how was your week?
It was, let me tell you, Sunday, I came down with the cold, right? Mm-hmm. And I got it from my grandbaby. And so one of the things I've learned to do was, and this killed the duration of it, probably lasted me 3 days, by fasting. Just didn't eat any food and just drank liquids and allow my body to eat up the virus, right? Or whatever was going on in me. And so, now in the recovery stage now, where, I think about Thursday, I started feeling better. I started moving around, getting back out into sales and everything. But the way to understand sickness is that you heard that saying, starve a fever, feed a cold, Yep. So when you're eating food while you're sick, the cold launches into the food. And that's what makes you throw up, so it stays in the gut. So if you just stop eating, your body will begin to reset itself and heal whatever it is that's going on. All you got to do is stop eating.
Stop eating. So go on a fast, let the body kind of do what it do. And the body will begin to heal itself. Now, is that adding some nourishment or no?
Water. See, your body is going to eat the foods or eat the cells that's been sitting around dormant, whether they're bad cells or good cells. It will get rid of them. The body has a period of trying to reset itself. So if you don't eat, it can concentrate on getting rid of your disease. And that's where it's at. It can now concentrate. So it means you shut down your digestive system. It doesn't have to do any function or work for you. And then the body can focus on healing you. So eat no food. And people are afraid to stop eating. Just, you ain't gonna die. You got fatty cells that'll keep you alive that your body will eat. All you got to do is drink water. But we somehow think you're going to starve. Starvation, when you're feeling famine, your body's at work at that point. Just let it happen. You ain't going to die. Just let it happen. And then you watch your process, how your skin will renew itself, how your taste buds will change, right? And see, if you stop eating foods, guess what? Also, you stop eating sugars. And so now when you come back to eating again, it doesn't taste the same. Your palate and your taste is different. So allowing your body to reset itself is to stop eating. Just stop eating. You ain't going to die. Just stop eating and drink a lot of liquids and water.
Hey, man. Well, I tell you what, that is good health and wellness information, folks. Y'all always get good nuggets when you come to the Tipping Point Morning Show every Saturday. First up, folks, in the round of guests that we have, in the round of segment co-hosts that we continue with is another brother from another mother. We're going to do the crypto wrap up with brother Crypto Cliff. Family, welcome to the Tipping Point Morning Show. How you doing there?
I'm doing good, man. It's a beautiful morning here in Georgia. How you brothers doing today?
Doing awesome, brother.
Fantastic, man. Is that a Bitcoin hanging around your neck?
Oh, you already know, bro. You already know, man. Yeah, man. Listen, man. There's a lot of stuff going on in the crypto space right now, but it's nothing bigger than XRP right now, bro. And it's one of my all-time long-term holds. XRP has huge news coming out as soon as this lawsuit is over with in December. They're kind of speculative that the lawsuit might end earlier than December, but XRP is whooping their butt in this lawsuit, man. But as soon as this lawsuit is over with, man, XRP could potentially hit $3 a coin. Right now, XRP, you can get XRP for roughly around 35 cents right now. Listen, XRP is going to be that unit. It's going to be that utility coin. It's going to be used all around the world. There are actively 1,500 banks all around the world actively using XRP's XRapid system right now as we speak. One of the biggest banks using XRP right now is Bank of America. Think about that. Bank of America. Not only Bank of America, but PNC Bank and Wells Fargo are actively using XRP's XRapid system right now. And the United States government and the British government are actually linking up together to see how they can put XRP into the treasury. Think about that.
Let me ask you a question. All right. And this is something that, John and I converse about a lot. And, it definitely is probably needing to be more conversation as well. We'll probably do another show surrounding this. But what is to stop anyone from flipping a switch? Because it's, you're talking majorly digital. I mean, yes, you got credit cards. That's digital. We've got money in banks. You go online, you move money around. That's digital. Yep. But this is becoming to the point to where it's super digital, meaning I can't necessarily just go take some Bitcoins in my hand and go do something with it. You know what I mean? Whereas you can now with cash. So what's to stop somebody from flipping a switch and cutting it all off?
The first things first, the blockchain cannot be hacked or tampered with. That's the first switch. So, for instance, when it comes down to Bitcoin is totally decentralized. Now, unless they can completely cut off all electricity and all electronics, they cannot stop Bitcoin. They cannot stop cryptocurrency that's decentralized. See, the thing with cash is a lot of people think cash is so readily available. But the last time I checked, try to go to your bank account and pull $10,000 out. I tried. They're going to tell you it's a waiting period because banks are not even holding cash anymore. Everything is digital. Every single thing is digital. Now, if you want to talk about the number one way you can actually hold value, which is something I'm actually teaching in my upcoming course, is precious metals. Point blank period. Gold, silver, polonium, titanium, platinum, copper. Those type of investments will always hold value because it's the original version of currency. So when I teach, I don't just teach about crypto investing or stock investing. I also teach about precious metal investing because that's the one currency that's never going away. But to answer your question, everything digital cannot be hacked. Absolutely not. The blockchain cannot be hacked. Crypto exchanges get hacked all the time. Bank accounts get hacked all the time. I was just reading an article about U.S. Bank, how U.S. Bank actually just got hacked by one of their admins, just like what happened with Bank of America 2 years ago. But guess what Bank of America did? What?
So for, and John, I know you want to jump in, but real quick, when it comes to the blockchain, all right, from my understanding, it's all about the fact that there are these supercomputers that are in different parts of the world, and no one supposedly knows where all of them are. But these supercomputers, I guess, IT people or whatever, communicated with each other, and this is what creates the blockchain and holds it up to be secretive and whatnot. Am I right or?
Not necessarily, and not to call you wrong. But
no, I don't mind being called wrong. Let's get to the truth. So tell me what's what.
See, the thing is, you got to turn around and first off know about what a ledger actually is. A ledger is basically a system that runs transactions, actually holds transactions. So, like for instance, Facebook has a certain amount of ledger. I think Facebook has around 10 ledgers that actually access and holds every single like, comment, share, everything you do on Facebook. What the blockchain is a collection of tens upon thousands of computer systems that access this data. So, for instance, Bitcoin has tens upon thousands of different Bitcoin mining systems, are what we call CPU systems, called nodes, that actually verify and confirm every legitimate transaction that actually goes to Bitcoin's blockchain. So, in order for someone to hack into that system, they literally have to hack into 80% of those tens upon thousands of computer systems.
Let me ask you a question. What's the downfall of crypto?
The downfall of cryptocurrency, honestly, in my humble opinion, is the downfall of most of these countries around the world. I think cryptocurrency allows people to become their own version of banking systems. So the downfall of crypto, especially when it comes down to smart contracts, would be a downfall of a lot of the industries in the world right now.
Let me explain something to you real quick, and I hope that we can. I don't want to spend a lot of time in this subject. Maybe we can have a show particularly on this subject. Because a lot of you guys are seriously misinformed, and it all sounds good. But when you make the statements about using crypto to remove regular currency, you're making a grave mistake. And you don't understand how you're getting people to move their wealth towards a system that can be done by switching, just taking a switch and cutting it off. You see, the thing about it is this thing about when you say the words, and I know you're a young brother. I heard when people say the words, well, the dollar value is going down, that right there is something that's been echoing since the 60s. That's not a new term, right? And so, yeah, you for myself as an investor, I look at like this, and I've talked to a lot of great investors, and we was talking about having one of my financial advisors on with Raymond James. One of the things I teach about telling people is that the best investment is company products and services that has backing, right? If I take my money and stick it in crypto or any coin, here's what happens. It is too volatile. Let's say, for instance, I take and I want to go buy a loaf of bread and I want to use a coin. So I look at the price of my coin. Maybe that coin is $20. But guess what? I still got to turn that coin into US currency in order for me to buy something. So now imagine I'm going to the store. On my way to the store, I take out a $20. I'm getting ready to go purchase several items for $20. I'm on my way to the store. By that time I get there, that coin done dropped $18, right? Now I got $2 in my hand from that coin, so it's not worth it, right? So now it's like a dollar bill. When we talk about inflation, well, my dollar could buy a loaf of bread right now, or it could buy a loaf of bread a year ago. Well, now that same loaf of bread cost me $1.50 because inflation went up, and that made that go down. But crypto is a little different, because it's so volatile. By the time I get to that location, that same value dropped. You understand me? So what I look at currency is like this. My company spends money overseas. And I tell you now that the number one currency in the world is still the US currency. I can take $1,000 and send to China and order a product that I can bring back over here and make $10,000 off of. It is the same as foreigners coming over here working and sending 1/3 of their money home. When you're looking at it from your view in this country, the dollar bill don't look good. But when you talk to people around the world, it does. A lot of you guys don't know what backs the dollar bill. You assume that the dollar bill don't have no backing. It does. It has your social security number, and crude oil is what's backing the dollar bill. And right now, even if you get into Forex trading, it is the number one trading with Forex. And even though you trade with it, guess what you got to turn it back into in order for you to spend it? Back into US currency. So what I tell you this, I tell most people this, crypto is a trap for most of y'all that y'all don't know, right? Because what it happens is just like China does to their currency and their people. They can turn it off at any time by a switch of a button, right? And so now people can be in a situation because you didn't act right or walk in a certain line, they can cut your switch. Canada just went through, and Google this, Canada just went through a shutdown of their power. And I think it lasts for a few days. Guess what? Nobody could move money if you didn't have cash. I think it's a scary thing to be talking about moving away paper currency from your hand of trading, Direct trading. I think that's the worst thing that's going on, that becomes the new age of what we call the new world order. But to y'all, it sounds good, because this is y'all little new way of thinking y'all can make some quick money. It's a little dangle. It sounds good, but none of y'all are making any money off crypto that you're making a living off of it. You're mainly making a living off your classes. You can't show me one coin that's making any money that you actually paying your bills with right now at all. None, right? And so I would love to have this discussion with some financial advisors. You guys are not old enough to have this much knowledge in that space, because this is too new for a lot of y'all, right? And you're unaware of what's going to take place in the future. You think that the white man, the power to be, don't know about crypto and how it works. Let me tell you this. If crypto was the new currency to take over the currency and they didn't want it, they would shut crypto down. Just the same way they shut down Gaddafi when Gaddafi said that, hey, he wanted to trade gold for his oils, just like they did Saddam Hussein, right? Because he said he wanted to trade euros for his oils, right? And Chavez, right? As soon as they start saying that, who goes after him? The power to be. So if crypto was that dope, this is why y'all don't know who owns crypto. This is why y'all don't know who owns whatever coin you say you're claiming. You don't know the backing. You don't know none of that. It just sounds good to you. So this is what y'all do. Y'all take a coin, and it may cost you fractions of a penny. Y'all get on and y'all pump it up, get everybody involved. As soon as people spend a little money in that coin goes up, and then you go dump it, right? Yeah, as soon as it gets $3 from paying pennies for it, and you spend hundreds of dollars on buying a coin that you pay pennies for, and it goes up to $3 or $4, you done made quite a few money. This is what it's called when they was doing this in crypto. Pump and dump. Pump it up, get people in it, and dump it. That still exists right now today, right? But that's another conversation that I would love to have with y'all, but I would want to have it with a professional person, like we talked about with Raymond James. Edwin Fox is
Let's do that.
Right. That's
let's
what
do that. Let's
absolutely.
Hey,
Honestly,
Cliff, would you be interested in coming on for that?
Absolutely, because I can debunk every single thing you just talked about, my brother. Every single aspect of every.
You can't debunk it because you haven't lived long enough to see it happen. How can you debunk something you don't know the future of it right now? You don't. You ain't lived long enough, young man. That's the point I'm making. Is you don't know what they're doing. You don't know how they're planning this in the future. And some of y'all believe that the government can't see y'all transferring money. He knows he's the one that created crypto for you. There ain't no extra person out here running around and created crypto that is anti what this system is doing. And y'all playing right into the same system that was designed for you to play. And your boy's right. Anything digital can be hacked. Anything. And for you to not assume that, you don't have a clue that it can be hacked. All systems can be hacked.
My brother, I love every point you made, but I can debunk every single thing you just said. Easily.
Okay, so let's have that conversation. So look, we'll work on this for next Saturday to have that conversation, to potentially have a professional on, and go ahead and have that conversation, because it's just like Vicky Irvin just said. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and
I can answer a lot of those questions. And honestly, go ahead. That's the old way of thinking of money, because now money is digital. So money, and by using your same definition, money can be debunked. Money can be turned off.
Exactly. Your credit card can be turned off. That's the point. That's the point. Your credit card can be turned off. Exactly. Exactly right.
But I think you are very, very misinformed when it comes down to the crypto market, brother. And to give you this, I make very little money off of my crypto courses. Most of my money came from crypto.
Do you make any money off your crypto? Show me the coin that you invested in, where it's at right now, and how much you made off.
Right now, get this. I bought Bitcoin at $127 in 2014.
Uh-huh.
Now it's worth $23,000.
So wait a minute, but you're using the dangling. The Bitcoin really blew up, and it made it sound good. That's the dangling. That's the dangling piece you're doing.
21,000% right now.
Yeah, I know it.
I know it. Not dangling.
Right, but
dangling when it's when it's honestly up 21,000%.
Talk about how many people lost money in it.
When people buy,
but John, would that be any different than stocks in general? Someone invests in a stock and then
no. Here's why.
Here's why. Not any different, brother. Anytime somebody buys into the height of any market, they lose money because people move on emotions. They don't move on statistics. If you buy at the bottom of any market, you're going to make money. If you buy at the height of any market, in the bull market, you're going to lose money. That's
Correct.
point blank period. That's investing one-on-one.
Correct. This is why you didn't hear what I said. Crypto is not a product, company, or service, and it can disappear as fast as it popped up. How many coins have disappeared and some people made a lot of money off of? How many coins have popped up and pump and dump? Have you ever heard of pump and dump?
That's basically the definition of penny stocks. That happens all the time in the penny stock game.
Right. So now again, the pump and dump is to get people in it and then pull out. What I'm saying is that I'm not knocking that. If that's how you get your money.
That's not a pump and dump. Crypto. Listen, now in the first days of cryptocurrency, this is what we can have a conversation on. In the very beginning of cryptocurrency, in the first days, there were a lot of pump and dumps, just like there are a lot of pyramid schemes going on that are pump and dump companies. There are a lot of penny stocks right now that are pump and dump companies. Now, crypto has went from a realm of being a pump and dump or a small time thing where people were actually scamming people to actually having utilities behind them. Those utilities are actually technologies that are actually running the world right now. For instance, like XRP. XRP is a centralized cryptocurrency that literally makes banking transactions more efficient, run more faster, and virtually hack free. I'll give you a prime example. Bank of America. Bank of America had a huge hack 2 years ago to where one of the admins actually manipulated accounts in Bank of America and stole millions upon millions of dollars from people. After Bank of America had that huge scam, they started using XRP's X-Rapid system. Guess what happened? You haven't heard another scandal from XRP, right? From Bank of America, right? Now, one more scandal has came because XRP's X-Rapid system is the system right now that's holding every single account accountable. That's a utility of a cryptocurrency. So you're very, very much misinformed when it comes down to the crypto market, brother. You're looking at money in an old way. We are moving forward when it comes down because right now we're in a transformation from the fiat currency system, the system of the dollar bill that you praise so much that's not valued with anything. It's basically an IOU to a system that's actually built in technology. That's where cryptocurrency comes into play. So let's have that conversation because I can debunk every single thing you said respectfully, brother. And I am not basically putting out my course for people to actually bring me money because I charge very little for my course, extremely little, because my number one goal is to bring wealth to my people.
It's about education.
It's about education. I've made multiple millions off of the crypto market.
we're gonna have this conversation and we're gonna get those involved. We'll get professionals, everybody. We're gonna have this conversation. And we'll talk about it. Now, real quick before we go, I know you got a course coming up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have a course coming up right now. It's called the Recession Proof Course where I teach crypto investing, stock investing, and precious metal investing. It's only $99. I told you I don't do this to make money. I do this to educate my people. Got you.
All right, man. Well, look, we thank you very much, man. Again, this is going to be a nice conversation coming up. And again, Crypto Cliff with the crypto wrap up. There you have it, folks. Appreciate you, bro.
All right. Thanks, man. Peace.
All right. Peace. Man, that was dope. That was almost a show in and of itself right there. Well, look, as we're talking stocks and things of that nature, I tell you what, we are going to bring to the stage our stock spotlight with brother Leonard Walker. How you doing there, family? Look at him. Leonard's always looking so cool. Sitting here, look, he's sitting there on the beach. The airwaves is taking his cell phone service away. I think we losing them here. Let me check on our 5 minutes in financing because we definitely want to get to this topic here soon. There we go. How you doing there, brother?
Hey brothers. Can y'all hear me good? I'm out here on vacation. Believe it or not, I am sitting on the banks and the shores of what is called Point Comfort, and this is where I got my 1619 hat on. This is where those 20 some odd that started slavery in America among our people. So I did this for the reasons because right now I'm on the shores and the banks of where our ancestors were brought to and began the American chapter of slavery. Okay, here. On these banks and shores. And the stock tips I'm going to give today are 3 banks that you can buy for $50, a little bit less, that can get you a dividend and a good return. So with that said, We're enjoying this beautiful weather, this beautiful day. Hopefully I can stay with you guys right now. It's amazing how I'm in this area and the cell signal is just terrible, right? So let's get it started, all right? The first bank, matter of fact, as we talk about it, this week earnings came out and banks did really well. Two banks that I spotlight in particular did really well, and I'll get to that as we go. So the first bank I'm going to talk about is Wells Fargo. Traded on the stock exchange. Right now the price is going for $40.32 a share. It pays a $1.20 dividend with a dividend yield of 4%, and it pays 30 cents quarterly. That 30 cents quarterly.
Uh-oh. I tell you what, man, we losing you, man. Out there near the water, that's the one place that you don't get cell service that well at is near the water. So we might have to jump to the next segment. Let's see here. See if we can get them back here. There you go, brother.
Right.
You're gonna have to rip through these, man, just to get through it quick enough before that cell phone service runs away.
Right. That's what I'm trying to go a little bit fast.
Go ahead, bro.
So like I said, all right. That 30%, like I said, is they just increased their dividend, quarterly dividend. That was one of the news items about Wells Fargo. 52-week high is $60.30. 52-week low is $36. So as we can see, it's somewhere around the middle right now. So it's a little bit of room for some growth here on this. Stability. This stock, 73% institutionally owned, which means again, you got people that's forcing this bank to do ethical things, the finance company to do ethical things. The company was formed in 1929. And it's been paying a dividend since 1990. Earnings. The second quarter earnings, this bank earned $5 billion more than what was expected that they predicted that they would earn. So that is Wells Fargo. Our next bank we're going to be looking at. Next bank or financial institution we're going to be looking at is Citigroup. Its share price is $51.90 as of Friday. It pays a yearly dividend of $2.04. There's a quarterly dividend of 51 cents, and they have a 3.9, almost 4% dividend yield. 52-week high is $74.60, and the low has been $43.02. So it's again, this is another stock that you can buy on the low end, right? Takeaways from this company. This company, if you guys got, Costco or, things like that, you've seen Citigroup because that's the Citigroup credit card. So again, takeaways from this company is it was founded in 1988. It's 76% institutionally owned. Okay. Earnings. All right. They made $1.29 billion over earnings that they had projected. Right, and they started paying a dividend in 1987. I'm sorry, it's founded in 1987, so I started paying a dividend in 1988. All right, going through that one right quickly. And the last one we're going to talk about is Truist. Truist is the bank that took the place of SunTrust and BB&T. Right, if you guys think it's SunTrust and BB&T, Truist is the bank that took that place. Okay, its share price is $50.47. The yearly dividend is $2.08, and it has a dividend yield of 4%. The quarterly dividend, is 48 cents. 52-week high has been 68 cents and 95 cents, or $68.95. The 52-week low is $44.68. So again, here's another stock that's kind of in that mid-range, lower half of the highs and lows. Okay, this company was actually founded in 1968. It is 77%, over 77% institutionally owned. It only made about $30 million in earnings. Okay, it only made $30 million in earnings, but it did, make more than its earnings. And it's another one that has increased its a quarterly dividend. So these bank stocks that I talk about, $50 or less, okay, that you can buy, that are very stable, to get you a little bit of, get you some income. All right, remember last week we talked about dollar cost averaging. So these are some things that you can dollar cost average to be able to get you some income that you can live off of, like I do, right? And again, as you see, many people out here, walking around, and I'm on the shores of what was Fort Monroe or Old Point Comfort, where our ancestors was brought. And I just wanted to throw that up in there since I was in Williamsburg, Virginia this week on vacation.
Hey, man. Hey, so if we do it right, then we could do it like you, right? Retire in our 50s and sit on the beach and do podcasts.
Retire in the 50s, sit on the beach. Hey, as long as we got a good sales signal, like I said, you see I'm trying to talk fast because I don't know when this thing is going to drop out. But yeah, I'm going to do a little bit more walking around and taking some more pictures and drop some pictures. I just to look at the subject matter of what today's show is, I saw that I might not be able to catch it and join because I'm gonna be around. But the brother that you guys got coming on, I've known him for several years now. So
yeah. So
I
know you're
going. John, it's gonna be a very, very interesting show today. So for
Absolutely.
y'all out there, stay tuned. Make sure you tell people about it because this is gonna be very interesting.
Hey, brother, we appreciate you, man. You tune in as long as you want, brother. We appreciate it. Until next week.
You gonna stay in the back room, Leonard?
Yeah, he usually does every week. He'll
Okay.
stay in as long as he can. Hey, man, that's good stuff right there. Good morning, Michael Palmer. Good morning, El Patar. Good morning, Vicky Irvin. Shout out, Trey Prue.
Yep.
Maybe. Shout out, Johnny Wakefield. And hey, everybody tuning in. I see more and more people tuning in. Vanessa Sigamon. Good morning and blessings to you,
Good morning.
Queen.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. So good information coming in through the doors, man. I think Leonard would be good to have in on that conversation next week as well.
Okay.
Have Leonard, Cliff. We'll get the professional. I think that'll be a dope conversation. And El Patar, just to let you know, when we do this right here, this is the stock spotlight with Leonard Walker. And he brings us purposefully information on dividends and things of that nature, the ability to go ahead and create wealth, create income, monthly income, and when he talks, he's specifically speaking to the younger generation, especially. All of us can take part of it, but for the younger generation, it's a matter of them learning how they can if they just spend, $50 a month and buy one of these over a period of 20, 30 years, then guess what? You create some significant wealth. These are stable companies that have been around for years that pretty much ain't going nowhere. And I'll be honest, I never thought about looking up banks to invest in their publicly traded stock.
Yep.
Never ever thought about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So absolutely good stuff. Health Daddy Wild, Grand Rising, brother.
Peace, brother.
Phyllis Satia, Churchill Myers, Grand Rising Queen. Good morning. Absolutely. So let's see. I think we're gonna jump on over to our main topic here.
Heather's not with us today?
No, she said she was coming on and she's commented on it on her way, but
yeah, she sent me some good information on Fidelity. I wanted her to expound on the information. She said, "Wow, missed that."
Yeah, she said she was coming in to talk about QuickBooks today. Which some good information, but we may have to go ahead and move on. With that in mind, then we've got a amazing show for y'all today. But first, we are going to go to commercial, and we'll be right back. Once again, folks, it is the Tipping Point Morning Show.
Hey folks, check out healthdaddywow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, healthdaddywow.net. Remember, healthdaddywow.net.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
Thank you, Truth Be Told, for allowing God's Lives Matter to be a sponsor. Wearable products, as the purple t-shirt, is bearing witness. Every life created by God has infinite value. Visit God'sLivesMatter.com.
I don't need to sit at your table. We building one. We in the process of building a table. We building a table. I don't gotta sit at your table. I'm building my own table, and I will build you a table in the presence of your enemies.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. Right here on WLOU. Stream it live on Facebook and WLOUonline.com. And now, The Tipping Point Show.
Folks, we are back. And real quick, without further ado, we're going to bring up 5 minutes in financing with Lady Brazilianaire, Sis Heather Weatherspoon. How you doing, family?
Hello, how are you all?
Awesome.
Good.
You got your beautiful daughter with you.
Well, today I have my content creator and my secretary. You want to say hello?
Oh.
And she's going to talk about today's financial tip. Download QuickBooks on your phone for the business people. So for those of you who don't know what QuickBooks is, and I was explaining to Kaylee, this is going to help you prioritize. A long time ago, we used to have a bunch of receipts lying around. So when you go and pay your employees, and when they put their paycheck in their bank, you get all these receipts. Well, when you tie your checking account or your business account to QuickBooks, it will automatically prioritize that for you under contract labor. So when you need to print out your P&L or your profit and loss sheet, or if you need to give anything to your accountant or what have you, or your CPA, they will see that you wrote a check to pay your employee and it's already there and you don't have any receipts lying around. If you use any kind of your debit card or a business credit card, again, and you go to McDonald's or Starbucks or what have you, you have all these receipts. Do away with that. Everything is technical. QuickBooks prioritizes it for you. It makes your life better. I love QuickBooks. Thanks, kid.
And you are absolutely right. That's what I use in my company. Been using it for 20 years. I love the program. And actually, when I started, in one of the 5 levels of understanding business, and one of the things that people have most problems with is the financial part, right? And so QuickBooks makes it extremely easy for you. It's really simple. By putting the information in, it'll all calculate everything for you right off the bat.
And there's also a free option for QuickBooks. There's also a $5 option and so on and so forth too as well. Also with QuickBooks, you can also do payroll. Love you.
Well, there you go. There you have it, folks, right there. It is 5 Minutes in Financing with Lady Brazilianaire and her content creator right here on the Tipping Point Morning Show.
I had a question, though. You sent me something. You sent me some information that was very interesting. I wanted you to elaborate on those fidelity points that you had in there.
Yes. So what I sent information was about some short stocks, short sales that I invest in. It's something that I follow on a platform called Reddit.
I'm hearing an echo.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So it's a platform that I'm on called Reddit, and I'm in these groups called short sale or short stocks. And what they do is they actually predict if this stock is going to go up really, really quick or if it's going to drop. So the screenshot that I sent you was pretty much all of these short stocks that I invested in. I took about $20 and divided it up. But all these stocks, and literally within a week, one of them went up 100 and some odd %. And I think I sent that to you as well.
Yes. I was amazing numbers.
Yes. I also sent you a screen recording of my entire portfolio and little short sales here and there and all kind of stuff. So I literally did what Brother Leonard said, took my 20 and went here, and now have all of this.
I think we should have her on there too, because that information that she's given, I'm telling you, that is very, very valuable in what she's sending. You talk about something to making money off putting your money in. That was awesome information.
And because I have my daughter here, so when I do get those dividends or that return, I either put it back into the stocks or I just put it in a savings account.
I love that about you. I love that. I love that where you're teaching your children, you're having that conversation, you're having a conversation at the dinner table. She's going to be awesome when she grow up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, thank you, Lady Brazilianaire. We appreciate you until next week.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So, folks, it is time for our main
fast-paced nation, world population confront their frustration. The principles of true hip-hop have been forsaken. It's all contractual and about money making. Pretend to be cast.
All right. As y'all can see, did West Africa practice
fast-paced nation
Egyptian theology, or was it just witchcraft? To the stage, folks, we have another brother from another mother, brother Pierre Lawson. Welcome to the Tipping Point Morning Show family.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Awesome. Yes, sir.
Perfect. I'm glad to be in good company with you. Thanks for having me on the show. I want to thank you, Joe, and I want to thank you, Mr. John Yao. My first time meeting you guys. I did catch your episode last week, so I want to get a little familiar with your content. I really appreciate what you guys are doing out there in the community, and again, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I love that virtual background you got. You know, with all the virtual books and stuff. Oh, look at how technology works.
Yeah, I'm a student.
That's right.
Teacher.
That's right.
So, you know, I teach because I learn a lot as well. So sometimes I gotta like just get it off. You know,
yes,
so
sir.
But yeah, I appreciate it.
Gotcha. So I mean, this came together. There was a conversation this week, and Brother Leonard Walker was commenting on it. It was some real good talk concerning African the history of Egyptian theology and all of that good stuff. And I showed it to my brother here, John Yah, and he became interested just the same and said, hey, let's talk about that. But just to kind of peep a little bit of the stuff that you talk about here, study West African history and culture if you want to understand Black ancestry that's closely related to Black people. Many people only hear about ancient Egypt and know nothing of West Africa. Many West Africans here in the U.S. will gladly teach you. West African culture is not the same as Egyptian, you know. So just to kind of touch base, I think one of the main conversations, let's see, was when you were talking about I know, you talk about studying economics and finding yourself back in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, all type of stuff, man. You're in there with a lot of different conversation. Here's one. No Black American ancestry comes from Egypt. The Portuguese, Spaniards, and Europeans did not travel to Egypt to purchase Black people for slavery. They were purchased and bargained from the coast of West Africa by other African tribes and leaders that defeated them in tribal wars. Those dominant tribes never left Africa and are still here. This is Black American ancestry. West Africans did not worship the gods or religions of the Egyptians. They did not study the mysteries or the math, and they did not practice mummification of their dead nor write hieroglyphics on walls. A lot of what was practiced was witchcraft. Many West Africans abandoned those pagan religions and adopted Christianity or Islam by choice, not by force. The Egyptians were pagan sun worshippers that believed in mythology. So I think that right there is what prompted this conversation right here to ask that question.
Fast-paced nation, world population confront their frustration. The principles of true hip-hop have been forsaken.
So let's get it started. All right, so with this in mind, we're gonna have a healthy, gentlemanly conversation here, and love the content. John, I know you got some questions, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and hand the mic to you.
Greetings, brother. Appreciate you, man. Definitely, you said a lot of things, made a lot of points on facts, and I really appreciate that. There were some things that kind of disturbed me a little bit. Not disturbed me, but just kind of said, okay, well, I was wanting to know where you got your information from.
Good question. Before we even get into that, I do want to give a shout out to brother Leonard Walker. We've known each other for quite some, few years. We've been engaged in lots of debates and conversations, but it's always mutual love and respect. So shout out to Leonard as well. And then also, I think it's important that, the viewers understand, who you're listening to, because you have a lot of people that bring out content, whether it's attacking the Bible or supporting some type of whatever it is that they're doing, but you have no background of who they are, what their foundation is. And in most debates, the opposite person in the corner, they have a whole track sheet of who they're debating. So you know who you're in the arena with, you know their beliefs, you know their background, you know their foundations, which allows you to strategize because they have the same, input on you. So who I am, I'm Pierre Lawson. I'm 37 years old. I got a couple little years on me. So I'm not just a little young bunkin. I got kids. I got a great family and a wife. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work in the capital markets as an analyst, investment banking world. I do have a website called Wall Street Jack Boys that we started in 2015. And similar to what you guys are doing, my mission was to bring it back to the hood, everything that I was learning, and just bringing it back to the hood because I saw a way that I can relate that information that was relatable to my people. And when I'm seeing my boys out in the streets, they're getting all this money, I'm like, well, let me show you a different way. So that was my whole idea when I came up with the whole concept. And we used to do the webinars and stuff like that since 2015. Then, we got the website, which is at wallstreetjackboys.com. And then we advanced the platform. So it's like a social media platform plus, the educational platform. Website itself is free for anybody to use. We have a live 24/7 chat room that's also free to use as well. We do charge for the course material, but it's not a requirement to have membership. The purpose for charging for the course material so that we can keep the website. Ideally, I want the website to pay for itself. I don't want to have to keep, these expenses. I want for it to pay for itself, but it's a one-time fee to if you need the courses. But if you don't need the courses, you still jump in and engage and meet some other intelligent people. We've got people from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So anyway, that's my background as far as, with all of that, with finance and stuff like that. I also have a strong background in Austrian economics. I've been studying Austrian economics for like 3 years. I do some work with Dr. Walter Block. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Austrian economics. I believe, John, you probably...
I've heard of it, yeah, but I'm not familiar with it by detail.
Okay. So most people, when they think about economics, they think about statistics, they think about math. With the Austrian methodology, it is not math. Louis von Mises, I'll show you this book here. He's the master teacher. This guy here, and you definitely want to get this book here. It's thick. It's a little intimidating for some people, but he created what's called praxeology, and it's the study of human action. So what the Austrians did, they basically tied the microeconomics to the macroeconomics. Before then, there was no connection, there was no bridge. And so basically, all economic activity stems and it comes from the genesis of it comes from human action, individuals acting. And so if you understand the genesis, you can always reverse engineer to get to the source of things, the causality. So therefore, you have accurate forecasting and understanding and reasoning behind why things are the way they are. Why is inflation this way? Why is this, So it doesn't matter what definition they say it is, that and the third doesn't matter because the truth cannot be hidden. They can try to shout it in definitions and etymology and all this other crap. It doesn't mean anything because we study the human action. Anyway, that's just a short thing on Austrian economics. It's really good. There's not a huge presence of African Americans, but there are lots of Africans, and we have some great teachers that's in Africa and Haiti that actually publish articles. So anybody that's interested in studies on like why Africa is the way it is, or why Haiti is the way it is, or anything Black concerns. You can actually go to the Mises Institute. That's what it's called, the Mises Institute. They got a whole institute after this guy. The Mises Institute, and they have lots of publishings that you can actually, catch yourself up on and learn. There's some great guys that y'all got a financial community, so most of your people probably know who Peter Schiff is. Peter Schiff is an Austrian economist, so that's why he's able to explain economic phenomena so well and is able to accurately, predict and things like that. So that's, Austrian economics. I have a strong background in that. But when it comes to this topic here that we're having about the the whole West Africa and Egyptian situation, I think that is important because I see lots of videos and stuff like that that's out there, and I think that most people want answers, and I think we all want answers, and I think that's an honest, and a good position to come from. I don't think it's a bad thing. People want answers, and I see a lot of people are looking for answers on the web. And so you have lots of people that put out videos, like they have the source, they got the cheat code, they got all the answers, they have all these knowledge and things like that. And so people will subscribe to whatever they hear. If it sounds good enough, you use enough big words, you can captivate them because like, oh, this guy's smarter than me. He must know what he's talking about. But I want to have, like you said, a healthy conversation on the situation. I don't want to step on any toes. I'm not here to convert anybody or nothing like that because I believe in freedom. And I think that, you all have the freedom to believe in what you want to believe in. But we do want to get to some things that I think you guys can identify. Another one of my, things with Austrian economics, we learn how to think in logic and reason. Most of our stuff is skilled in logic and reason. So a lot of things you don't even need books for. It's just logic and reason. It's, if you're not skilled in that, then definitely look it up. But yeah, logic and reason, stuff that just can't be debunked. You know what I'm saying? It's a methodology about it. Okay, it's basically you have true premises. If all your premises are true, then your conclusion is true, right? But if you have a false premise anywhere, then it could nullify your conclusion. So that's the way I think. So when I'm talking and discussing, that's my methodology.
Correct.
Okay? So with the whole situation about the West Africa, I think what I wanted to convey is that when we're talking, because again, people want answers. They want to know, what are my roots, right? I think Kanye said it best, we're orphans. Okay, we're all orphans, right? It don't matter, if the guy he's Kemetic this, he's Egyptian this, he got this name, that, and most of these people, they name themselves. None of us can track our bloodline to any place in Egypt. That is a fact. No one can show you that their bloodline, their ancestry comes straight from Egypt. They've adopted those names, and I don't have a problem with you adopting the name. But we can't trace our bloodline back to Egypt because it's so far down a timeline of history. I'm not saying that Black people didn't come from Egypt at all, but it's so far removed from closely related to you and why you are the way you are, your culture and stuff like that, that we so focus on that time in history, which is so, millennials, okay? And you never step foot to look at West Africa, which that is closely aligned to us. Our traditions. You say, hey, I want to know what my roots are. You just go all the way to Egypt. You just skipped so many millennia, centuries, the development that occurred in West Africa that landed your ancestors in a situation where they were defeated in, wars and was sold into slavery, which is the reason why we're here in America. So that's what, my point is, and that's where I'm coming from. Some of the sources, I know you asked John, and I'm going to, hand it back over to you. Some of the sources that I did use to research was, here's a great book here by John Reeder, A Biography of the Continent Africa.
Okay.
And this is it's a thick body of work. It's paleontology, archaeology, historians, like all kind of stuff. He just goes through pretty much like everything. And we have to be appreciative of people that put in so much work to do this research. It costs a lot of money. I don't think people understand that. You're not a scholar just because you research stuff on YouTube or there were people who came and they have so much access and resource. It costs money to do this stuff, so we gotta be thankful for those people that actually put in that work, because we get the short and sweet. We actually get to review the homework that they actually put in, and then you can apply logic and reason. You always got to apply logic and reason. Okay, you can't just take it's just because it's written on something doesn't mean that you're going to get to the right place. Just like yesterday, I was at a meeting. We have an Austrian economics club where we go and meet entrepreneurs around the U.S. and that practice Austrian economics. And so yesterday we were at a gold mine here in a small town called Gold Hill, North Carolina, one of the first places of the gold rush before California even got it. It was here in North Carolina, didn't know. But there's a place called Reed's Gold Mine as well, just right down the street. So this is a whole mining district. It's only about 372 people. And so we met the owner of, she basically owns this whole town. It's crazy to know the history. But yeah, so I just coming from that, but using the GPS, I'm just looking at the GPS trying to get to the place. If I'm just looking at the GPS, I would have missed my location because I wasn't using my logic and reason. I see the GPS is navigating me somewhere that's wrong. I'm not just gonna follow it just because I read it. The GPS is there. I have to apply logic and reason. Say, okay, well, the GPS got me close enough, but the place I need to be over is actually over here. So anyway, but that's what I mean is like we still have to apply logic and reason to those things that are written, whether it's on a tomb or a pyramid or whatever the case may be. You still have to apply some logic and reason. So that's the thought process behind that.
Gotcha. So, I'm with you on some of the points that you're making. Definitely, we are so far removed, and people do skip over it because they're impressed with what was going on in Egypt. The question becomes, where'd you get your information from about Egypt that they were worshiping sun gods?
Okay. So I think the message that was conveyed in that short little post, it doesn't encompass everything. I think it was like short, narrowed. Egypt was a multicultural, diverse place. Okay, there were so many people in Egypt. Egypt was pretty much like America today. Like most people don't understand, it was an advanced civilization, and things that make a civilization advanced is money. People don't understand how you guys talked earlier about money and currency, but money was technology. It's one of the greatest technologies that mankind discovered, and money is an improvement on barter. Okay, you have barter systems, and then once they figure out money, then that is what allows civilizations to become advanced, because you can do trade. And so when you have trade, places like Egypt was, had lots of great resources, but it's right there on the sea, the ports. So it's easy to do trade. They had great resources. People from all over the world wanted to get the resources, goods, and services in Egypt. So that culture down there, although you had, some black people, I think that if you're not applying logic and reason, if you just listen to what people said on the web, you will assume that everybody in Egypt was 100% black, and that just was not true. There was multiple different types of people in the area. With them, let me answer your question. But with them, they brought their traditions and their religions and customs. So it wasn't just they all worshiped the sun. That was some of it. You had the Persians. You had lots of people that were in Egypt that bought their religions. I mean, I think that even so, it depends on which one you're talking about. You're talking about which people are you talking about, right? You're talking about the Nubians, with the Oxums, and all these different people there. They all had like different types of religious beliefs. But so I think that's would have been a more broader way for me to express it in a little short post. I'll just I'll post it in for that, because that was one of the things that they worship. It was one of the things that you can identify the difference with Christianity and some of the pagan religions is most of the time is some type of sun worship and some type of woman worship. And you don't get that from, the Christian religion.
Corey, well, the reason why I asked that question, because particularly, and you didn't really answer it, about the worshiping of the sun as a god. Because see, the thing about it is, and I'm sure you all were of how many dynasties it was in Egypt, right? Yeah. So there are 30 dynasties in Egypt. And like the first dynasty, it probably lasts over 600 years. Ramsey didn't come into the picture until around 19th dynasty, right? And so when we're talking about Egypt, when we talk about how Egypt was created from the upper and lower Egypt and put together by King Mani, that was the first one that actually was the first pharaoh that put together the first dynasty of Egypt. Now, the point is that, of course, the land was not called Egypt. But when you say they were worshiping, they were not worshiping them. Let me put it out there. Are you familiar with Dr. Chancellor Williams?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, Dr. Chancellor Williams is the author of Destruction of Black Civilization. Are you familiar with Dr. Ben? And what about Dr. Clark?
No.
You know about Dr. Henry Clark? Okay, so these are some of the leading historians, along with Dr. Diot, right? That did some absolutely great work. Now, and then Professor Smalls. Do you know who Professor Smalls is?
No.
Okay.
I may be familiar with some of that work, but when you the name dropping, I'm not familiar.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so now in this, a lot of people got their information from Eurocentric views of Kemet, of that particular land. And so what happens is this, and let me give you a little bit of an example. When the Greeks came in, the Greeks didn't know nothing about hieroglyphics and what they were looking at, right? And so they was the one that created this term called God, G-O-D. But where did they get that term from? Actually, in Kemet, in Egypt, the term that they used as God was Necha, right? And so what was Necha? So in hieroglyphic, there was a flag, and the flag drawn, it was in the walls, and the flag looked like it was moving, right? I mean, you know how you draw something and make it look like it's in motion, right? On the wall. And so they said, what is that? And he said, that's Necha. Necha is something that is in all attributes. Okay, so what is Necha? Necha means this: that which is unseen that has the power to affect the physical. That's what Necha is. That which is unseen that has the power to affect the physical. So they would look at the flag floating and realize there was something power in that, the physical. They called that Necha. The Greeks saw it and interpreted it as a god, something outside yourself. Now, when the Egyptians used certain birds or certain animals to place on their head or to put their image into, those was attributes. What was an attribute? An attribute is something that you learn from that actually is serving you. They weren't worshiping the sun. The sun was an attribute of theirs. The Greeks saw it wrong. So when I hear that word is that they worship sun gods and they had many gods, oh, that's a Eurocentric term. That comes from a Eurocentric study. That don't come from African study. You can't get that from Dr. Ben. You won't get that from Dr. Professor Smalls. You won't get that. They'll tell you that they were attributes, and there's a difference. You learn from an attribute, like a hawk has powerful eyes, right? And so they will put the hawk on their head, or they would draw it in their hieroglyphics. They weren't worshiping the hawk. They were respecting the hawk because what the hawk brought to them. An attribute is something that you can gain from. That's what an attribute was. So the worship part was the piece that the Greeks got wrong, because the Greek mythology just tore all of that up, and they didn't come into after the 19th dynasty, number one. When you use the word witchcraft, that's another European word that was used to interpret what African spirituality was, because white people didn't know what the hell we were doing. Hell, burning sage is considered witchcraft in the white man's eye, because he don't have a clue about what sage does, because he can't see. Okay, so let me give you an example of an attribute. Let me give you an example of Necha. If I have a thought, can you see it? Absolutely not. But I can take that thought and in the chemical in my brain, and I can hold that thought for a period of time to make that thought come into this reality. That's called Necha. That means I perform the act of Necha, which under the Greek term is God. right? And so now when religion came into the picture, and I know you said something about dealing with we weren't forced in religion, and that kind of said, are you familiar with the sub-Saharan slave trade? Surely you are, right? And those was Arabs that enslaved in black people. This was before Muslims, before people became black Muslims, right? And so just the same as Christianity and how Christianity was sweeping the southern part of South Africa, while the Islam was sweeping the northern part of Africa, right? And this is where the Moors came into the picture around in the 1500s, where the sub-Saharan slave trade took place around 650 AD until I think around 8 AD, 800. It lasted about, I believe, about 800 years, right? Until then you had the Moors came into the picture, and the Moors was colonized. They were Muslims. One thing that I know that the Moors swept northern Africa, killing people that looked like us because they didn't accept Islam. Right. And so that piece there plays a role with how we got here today, because if it wasn't for the Moors teaching the Europeans how to navigate, we wouldn't have this situation here today. Are you with me on that?
So I'm with you on most of what you just said.
Okay.
Your last statement, you said something, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, that if it wasn't for the Europeans in the Moors, we wouldn't have the situation we're in. Can you expound on that? I don't understand.
Accordingly, the Europeans didn't know how to sail a ship, and the Moors taught them. Okay. So you are aware of that Moors was walking around with what is called sovereignty while slavery was going on, right?
So what timeline are you talking about?
I'm talking about the timeline now that we're in the Atlantic slave trade. Where the Atlantic slave trade, the Moors took a particular role in helping the Europeans navigate the ship of slaves. Like you said, there were always tribals, and tribals were selling their captivities to Europeans once they came in, but they couldn't do it without some group that would look like us to do that, because they didn't have the power to do that.
Right. I agree with that. So you had the Europeans, you had the Portuguese, and you had the Spaniards that were actually coming, into Africa doing the trade. Before the Europeans even had it, the Portuguese and the Spaniards were already participating in the slave trade. They actually taught the Europeans, and the Europeans had to get permission because they had to sail past, Spain and Portuguese to even come to Africa. They had to get permission to be able to even come down, and they were taught their ways from the Spaniards and the Portuguese. So, that's what was occurring with that. But I'm trying to track when you're saying, because I think what I'm trying to connect here is that the Europeans into Egypt and then the Moors from shipbuilding. So
I moved the timeline. Yeah. There was no connection there. Now just jumping timelines because I wanted to start out with the sub-Saharan slave trade of what happened. But Egypt was conquered first by the Greeks before the Romans came. And that came after the 19th dynasty. So to say that there weren't all black people, because white people weren't even on the planet during the first dynasty. There is no history that they were even out of the caves, right? That didn't come into the picture until after the 19th dynasty. After Ramsey came into the picture, that you started seeing different multiple colors of people coming into Egypt. Specifically, you had two parts of Egypt. You had Lower and Upper Egypt. And this is some of the things that is just a simple point, that one of the things in my logo of my company is why people think that they see the continent of Africa upside down, but it's actually right side up. And how you study that is based upon Upper and Lower Egypt, exactly how they placed it. Upper's at the bottom and Lower's at the top. The reason why that is because it needed to be flipped upside down. That's why it was called Upper and Lower, because we were looking at it through the European lens of how the Europeans shaped it and gave it back to us. These are the areas that are gray areas, because a lot of scholars are studying it from what the Europeans turned it around and give it back to us, as they usually always do. Just the same as Christianity, the Jesus theory, that is something made up that came out of Horus. It came out of the study of Horus and Isis of Mary and Jesus, right? They took it and shaped it up and then formed it and then poof, gave it back to us. right? And now we got the Jesus and the Jesus and the God thing, and then you got the Moses and Abraham, which none of those people exist. Those was just stories. There was never any proof that they ever walked the earth and exist during that time, and there was never the earth has never been fully flooded. There has been regions of floods. And so what you have is made up stories that the Europeans came up with to give themselves a history. Because the very first thing the Europeans don't want you to know is their true existence, that they weren't even here during the time. In fact, the land is a lot older than they claim the land is back in them days. We're talking over 10,000 years ago, not 2,000 years or 4,000 years as it's recorded, being some parts around 3,000 years before Christ. No, 10,000 years before this creation of this thing called Christ came into the picture. Now, you're right in a sense, but when we talk about, let's talk about transferring of information. Just like language changed over the years, when languages changes, theology and certain concepts change with it. Ain't nobody talking hieroglyphics. Ain't nobody really, now that people are using hieroglyphics because you can draw pictures. So we're using it, but we're not using it in the term that we're understanding their language. So nobody's speaking language of the people who spoke that language back then. Again, and like you said, it's so many shapes to it. It goes all the way back. I like to stick with the first dynasty of the understanding of who those people were to give you an understanding first. And who was the people before them? The Nubians, the people that was built 200 pyramids before the pyramids that was built in Giza or in Egypt. There were over 200 pyramids in Sudan. And this is where they got their information from of how to even build pyramids. A lot of people skip over that part, and people who just stick with Egypt and call themselves Kemites or Kemet, right? And they stay there and don't know that there were people that they got that knowledge from. Now, circling to that information, a lot of the information actually came from Southern Africa, where it traveled up before they had that information of knowledge, right? And so now we in this situation, and you're totally right. We're in this whole confused situation, just trying to find out who we are, because it's been so much added on and sticking to it that we don't know who we are today. But I agree with you. The closest thing that we can connect to is West Africa.
So, yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad we have a point that we agree on with the West Africa. I do disagree with several points that you made in regards to Christianity and Horus, the story of Horus, which is a myth. Just because it was written on the wall doesn't mean it actually happened. It's something that they believe, but it was a myth. But the story is actually not the same as the story of Christ, as you guys know. We don't have to really get into that, just because I think.
Oh yes, no, we can get into that.
Well, let me explain. I think that it's more of, an Egyptian debate. I think it's kind of a little more different debate. We may have to have like a whole discussion. I don't mind discussing it with you, but I don't want to take away from the West Africa story that the we were talking about with that. And so, because we'd probably end up going down a whole little rabbit hole, because there's so much history and stuff on there. But just understand that I disagree, and I think that also when you're making your claims that—
Do you disagree because you're a Christian?
Well, I am a Christian, and that's why I explained to you early on who I am, so you understand who I am. So right. So you know where my house at on the block. You can throw a rock at my house. If I don't know where your house at, I can't throw a rock back at you, right? So it's easy to attack me if I don't know where you're coming from, right? So, but you know where I'm coming from. So I do disagree with you on some of those things, but I think that let's talk a little bit about geography. That's kind of what I want to get to. That really ties into the point that we're on. So I don't even know. Let's see. I have a little map that I have. We homeschool, so got a little stuff here for my baby. But geographically speaking, right? And you guys are familiar with the map, and so you can see on the map where West Africa is at. Let's see if I can get my coordination.
You gotta turn it upside down.
I'm right-handed. You want to do it upside down? Well, I'm just showing people just the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, the Europeans came from up here at the top. They came down from here, which is the West Africa, in the south here. And they navigated this way in the circle, the same path of the hurricanes. That was the path of the slave trade. North Africa, Egypt is over here in this region. It's not remotely close to here. So culture and religions and everything is different from here than over here. Egypt is actually closely related to this here, over in this side here. So it is, if you apply logic and reason, that it is illogical to assume that Egypt was covered with black people only, and there was no other people. The people in this region had all different types of shades of brown. You can see it on the artwork when they're drawing all the different shades of brown. When you take a look at an Egyptian today, you can't tell the difference between a damn Egyptian or anybody else that's in the Middle East. They all have sandy brown complexions, whether it's a little lighter, they all have different tans and browns and stuff like that, right? And so you'll see, and you guys have all the evidence, and you guys are studying, you see pictures of people that's dark colored skin and brown and light tan, and because the Mediterranean, this area, like this whole area, people have those different types of skin colors. So I think that it's a fallacy for one to assume that it was only black people that was in Egypt. That's not truthful. Okay. I do agree with you talking about coming from the South, because they did some of the regions that you were talking about, like the Kush and all of that. Again, like, I don't really want to go there because there's so much history. And like I said, I think when people are talking about these things, I think you have to understand the timeline, the chronological order of these things to understand the distance of time. You're talking thousands of years. When you was talking, Brother John, y'all was talking about dynasties. These people was ruling for lots of, long times. Egypt was turned hands so many times with so many people. It just, you had the Persians, you had the like you said, the Greeks and the Romans. They came later, Alexander the Great and all that. But before then, I mean, they was, conquered over and over, So with that, the religions and stuff got mixed and all that other stuff. So, but back to the Christian point of view, is that from a Christian point of view, the Christian point of view is that God saved his people from Egypt. And so as a Christian, the issue that I have is that if you study the scripture, you study the Bible, if you're a believer in Christian, if you're not a Christian, then it's not going to have any value to you. But if you are a Christian, then you understand that God saved the people from Egypt and talked about it, okay? And he saved his people from Egypt, told them to not practice the traditions and the ways of the Egyptians, okay? So I find it amazing that people want to resurrect what was occurring in Egypt today when it was the very thing that God saved you from. Egypt, again, was kind of like a modern day America, man. It was a great, it was a place that you wanted to be. That's why they had so much people there. They had so much wealth and the resources there. So with that, again, you had all those different, the religious practices and stuff like that. But all that stuff, we can only go so far in that time to say who was this and who was there. But they were all different shades of colors of people that was over there in that region. And, back to my point earlier, none of us can track our bloodline to Egypt or cultural, because even at the time, if you look at this map and you say, okay, you're making an origination argument, right? Because if you're thinking like, okay, all black people were right here in Egypt, right? So then you're making the assumption that there were no people over here, right? So if you say black people was here in Egypt, but there was no other people here at the same time that all of these dynasties going, I think that's also illogical. I think there were people all over, but these people didn't practice what those people were practicing.
That's right.
And so that's why, again, bringing my argument back to West Africa, those people say, I want to get back to my roots. I want to know my roots. Well, I think you have to spend some time in studying West Africa if that's what you really want to do, because it's closely related to you. Now, whatever you choose to worship or believe, that's on you. I'm not here to dictate on what anybody believes, but I'm just saying, I think if you're looking for those answers, because people are looking for answers, you have to look over here. And I don't think we spend enough time with understanding the region.
All right. So now again, there were people all over the continent. What I'm trying to explain, and I think you should do yourself a real favor and study who Dr. Clark is and Dr. Ben.
I wrote the names down.
Yeah, and Chancellor Williams with The Destruction of Black Civilization, a great, absolutely great book that I've read years ago that today still have not been debunked. Some of the other scholars that came after him with Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and Professor Smalls. And so when you talk about, and let me start this way. Let me say this. When you have a belief, your emotions is tied to the belief.
We all have belief stuff, so make that clear. You may say that it's fact, but none of us was there, so we don't actually know for sure, but we have to have a certain amount of faith that what this information is conveying is objectively factual, and that's your belief, right? Which is subjective with all people.
you begin to create belief when you believe in what you were told. The feelings and the emotions become attached to your belief. When someone attacks your belief, even with facts, your brain shuts down. It doesn't want to hear it because your emotions is tied to it. So as you said, you don't know where I'm from. I don't attach my emotions to any of those, to no religion or any of that. All religions are
way if they attack with facts or if they attack with lies. You're talking about a belief argument now.
Wait a minute.
It doesn't matter if they're attacking with a lie or the truth. The reaction is still the same. Again, we're talking human action, human behavior right now.
One of the things that's most important is to just be patient and allow me to finish where I'm going with it. What I'm trying to explain is that when we begin to attach a belief to something, we will disregard all facts of information that are still coming out. Science is still growing. Knowledge is still being developed. They are still developing and finding tombstones in the ground in Kemet or in Egypt that they are robbing and taking right now today. My point is that I don't say the Egyptians had it all right. No, because they had a lot of it wrong, specifically thinking about this hereafter thing, right? My point is this, and this is where it comes in at, because now I see that you're a Christian, you will never accept the fact of Horus and the miraculous birth that was explained in that story of how the Europeans, the Greeks, and then later came the Romans did not understand what they were looking at. So of course they came up with this concept called Jesus that never exists. They can't prove none of that. Those are
just a truth or a myth.
No, those are truth. Those are truths about the story of Horus and the story of Isis. These things were symbols for people to learn how to get along, how to have culture, how to have relationships with each other. This is what
I want to be clear that what you're saying is that the story of Horus was something that actually happened and that it wasn't a myth. I'm trying to understand, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm trying to explain to you is that the story of Horus was already on the planet thousands of years before the story of Jesus being born from a miraculous birth. The story of Horus was a miraculous birth, right? The story of Mary, which is Isis. These stories was only translated from the Europeans and given back to you. This is how they conquered us, right? Because they used a piece of our stuff and gave it back to us, but they misunderstood, just like I explained to you about the term called God. That's a Greek word. That is something made up. In the first dynasties and several dynasties, they didn't believe in something outer of them. They believed that they were the power and that they built the things that they created, right? This was an understanding. Now, when you talk about this again about the dynasties, if I tell you that the Europeans didn't exist, they didn't come out the caves, they weren't nowhere on the planet. In fact, if you go and study how they were fascinated when they first discovered these people, not telling you that there were different colored people. I said Europeans. We all came from different shapes of colors, and in fact, the Chinese came from us. The Asian came from us. The Mexican came from us. They have all those traits, Africanness in their blood. But what they do not have is Neanderthal in their blood. And this is science. Who has the Neanderthal in their blood is the Europeans, right? So it kind of now looks a little different in shaping this concept, because now we're stuck right here in this form of religion that we can't get past, because you would never accept the fact that it was a European who created that concept of that religion, and it was used as a tool to keep our people ignorant in Africa, just the same as what the Arabs did and turned around and used Islam the same way the Christians did, to mislead people and take away their God self. That was the biggest fear. If you believe that you were a God and that there was nothing above you outside of you, you can't be controlled. But if they can take that from you and replace it with the God that they created, they control you. This is why we ain't went nowhere in Christianity. We're still under this same condition. I just made a post that all religions are man-made, and if it's not adding to your liberation, you need to throw that shit in the garbage can, right? So we'll talk. I want to just speak facts. The facts is
that's your belief, though.
If there was a God, if there was a God, if there was a God,
I just want to address that. You can't say that's a fact and just say, "Oh, it's a fact."
Wait a minute, let me finish. If there was a
belief, so I think you need to identify that this is my belief. This is your hypothesis.
Exactly.
No man has all knowledge. None of us do.
Correct.
We're all trying to find the answers, right?
Correct.
So
let me finish. One of the things we got to understand is that the Europeans, when we say, oh, Jesus came and saved the world, well, God said we're going to save it. Well, what was God during the first dynasty? Did not exist? You see how we are making it up, but then we can't comprehend that God was already here if he was alive, if he was somebody that was his true power, right? Because nature's God. Nature is the term that they misunderstood when it came to God. So what I can only tell you is that your study remains in Eurocentric value. All of your study. If you never heard of Dr. Clark, pick it up. If you never heard of these historians, pick it up and take the chance and cruise that information and then see if it doesn't counter debunk, whether you like it or not, counter debunk the belief system that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
So here, let me do this real quick, if y'all don't mind, and I want to ask you guys if this is okay. I've got a small minute video from John Reeder, and then I have a minute 40-second video from Tony Brown's where he's interviewing Dr. Chancellor Williams. All right. Can we play both of those?
Awesome.
All right. So let's play both of these, and we'll kind of go back and forth to because John Reeder, he focuses a lot on the missing link in history and trying to conquer that understanding. So let's just kind of take a look real quick and check this out.
Are there such things as missing links? Well, if you read the press reports, you'd assume that there are, because every so often we're told that it's been found. And that's been going on for 150 years now, having developed in the beginning from the idea that humans had ancestors. They lived many thousands of years ago. They're most likely to have looked like a chimpanzee. So what we've got to find is a fossil that has some aspects of chimpanzee about it and some of modern humans. And through the years, there have been a number of those found, in the sense that the people who found them said, here it is, the missing link. But inevitably, somebody else has come along and said, no, that's not right. That's more like a chimpanzee, or it's something altogether different. So I think the best answer is to say, no, there really aren't any missing links.
Africans were the first builders of civilization in the cradle of world civilization. They discovered mathematics, invented writing, developed sciences, engineering, medicine, religion, fine arts, and built the Great Pyramids, an architectural achievement which still baffles modern science. If life truly began in Africa, and the best evidence indicates that it did, then blacks, by the very nature of that fact, share kinship with every human being that ever lived. How then did they become so exploited, oppressed, hated, and despised? Moreover, if Africans built the first civilization, discovered science, mathematics, and developed writing, how did they fall from grace and end up on the bottom? I'm Tony Brown. In a moment, how black civilization was destroyed.
Featured on this edition.
We even accept the white man's view that anything black is evil or bad. Anything white is good. And we accept that too. Even God. When they say blacks hate blacks, it's not just a myth. Why we do not have the same respect for members of our race as we do for some other race, especially the white race. Your rights do not stem from any civil rights or Emancipation Proclamation or anything else. It stems from what we do not have.
So just I did that real quick. I wanted to kind of give just a little bit of context of the two, historians, if you will. You know, one coming from Oxford University, you know, versus the other. So just in thinking about this, you know, as we look at this, then two different viewpoints. You guys meet in the middle in a lot of different ways. But with that being said, how much of this plays a part in us as a people today? And who wants to go first on that?
Well, one of the things, those two pieces, I don't think added nothing, no value to the discussion here. Not one piece. I could have sent you some video. I could have sent you some videos of Chancellor Williams and Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, and that would have been great, because none of those added any value to our discussion, number one. And no, I don't believe we came from monkeys. That's probably where they came from. We're humans. And the term is human, EU, man. Right. And so that's the term of people who were melanated, the first people on the planet before the Europeans even came out the caves. And he was right when Dr. Brown, Tony Brown was right that we the cradle of civilization. All civilization came from us. Whereas all civilization came from us, who were those people that got the civilization later? Did they exist? Were they living in barbaric lifestyle? When we talk about civilization, we're talking about a people who had structure, right, against the people who did not have any structure. So when you talk about the buildings of the pyramid, you're talking intelligence. When you're talking building anything, you're talking intelligence. So you're talking about a people who taught this to the whole world. But how do we get lower? One of the things I would say is that according to Dr. Professor Smalls, we were a peaceful people when the barbarians came out the woodwork, right? And we would accept anybody to come in and teach them. They can come into our universities and learn. But what they found was our weakness, and that we accepted their behavior, and then that's how they end up taking over. If you look closely at the Greeks, you know there was also Black Greek preachers at one point in time. And so that came later of how the Greeks allowed them to become ministers and priests. But then at the same time, there was a trade-off, because there was a Greek pharaoh later in life, later in some of the later pyramid or later dynasties, there was Greek pharaohs, right? But before then, going back to the first several dynasties, and the first dynasty lasts 600 years. Several of them last 600 years. What that means in a dynasty is that they family ruled in that certain monarch as until that dynasty changed and a new ruler came into the picture and changed some of the things, whether it changed their language or changed their pieces of culture. Religion is something that is interpreted as a system. When you are looking at spirituality, that's totally different. Spirituality is not religion. Religion is a set of rules or rituals that you do that makes you perform a certain thing. That's what a religion is. Spirituality is totally different. If a spirituality is this, is that if I have a thought and that thought becomes a feeling, that's called a neurotransmitter. That's spirituality. You can't see it, but you can feel it. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about nature. This concept is hard for a lot of new minds to understand, because we are already bent and tainted with this indoctrination that we call education, to where you are now so far away from yourself, you don't even know that it's you that creates this world, that the world that you have in front of you was created first in your subconscious mind. And just like Joe, you and I talk a lot about how the subconscious mind works. From the first birth, when you're born to you're 7 years old, your mind is in what is called theta wave. What is theta wave? It's a form of hypnosis. So everything you know right now is habitual. The way you act, the way you behave, those things are habitual, because 80% of your mind is a habitual mind. But you can change that concept, right? And so when kids have this concept and they're taught something, they believe it is true. There's like 5 different dimensions when it comes to that. It's called indoctrination, or theta wave, which is program, another word for programming, right? And then it becomes, after the program, then becomes belief, where you believe in the program and you accept nothing else that attacks the program. Because as soon as I bring up an information that makes you feel uncomfortable, your mindset goes back to the program to attack whatever it is that's challenging your subconscious mind. This is why we in a habitual lifestyle. We're doing the same thing. We're not projecting out because we're not adding anything new to our brain to create new neurons and change. I tell everyone, get out of your thoughts and quit believing everything you think. And I appreciate you, brother, because you a reader. Ain't too many people reading no more, right? And so the point is that we ain't exercising new neurons in our brain to think different. Instead, we begin to believe in what we got, and we ain't accepting no more, and we become stuck on stupid.
So, Brother John, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with most of the stuff you just said, actually. Yeah, in those videos, just not good. But
that was just to show, give a face to the names. That's really
right. We'll take it for what it is. But this is my question. Okay, just the map. Okay, again, because I think some of the arguments is like an origination argument. Origination of civilization, and I think that's a different kind of argument, really. But my question for you, I want to know, during the time of the Kush Empire, all these empires over in Egypt, right? The West African people, what were they doing at the same time that the Egyptians were an advanced civilization? And again, advanced civilization, we're talking about a place that's like America. That's what Egypt was. Those other places were tribally broken down. They were still doing bargain and stuff like that. So economics is a factor that made Egypt the place that you want it to be. Okay. Exactly. So the other places, they exist now. So my question is, because are you denying that other people existed in Africa, around Africa, at the same time frame that people were in Egypt?
Am I say that again? Am I saying what?
Yeah, my question to you is: were there other people in West Africa at the same time of the
absolutely
dynasties?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was trade all over Africa. They was creating trade from the capital, and they looked at Egypt as the capital. So they did a lot of trade, a lot of gold, a lot of trade for food, a lot of trade in knowledge. Some people traveled there to go to school and then go back home and teach. No doubt they were there. They were like there was a desert. Africa was a more tropical land before it was a desert, according to history, right? Yeah. So there people lived there, and wasn't until the desert came or the land became dried up that people became separate. And after separate for so many years, their languages and cultures changed. Then they became tribal against each other.
Exactly. Okay. So I think we definitely agree on that. So my question is, at that time, when the Egyptians was practicing what they was practicing, what were the West Africans practicing? What were they believing? What were they doing?
Well, I'm not sure what they were doing, but they were definitely trading with it. I'm not sure. I don't know about a belief system. They weren't building pyramids, but nevertheless, they still used the knowledge that they were getting if they was in trade, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was the purpose. But yes, but here's the issue. You see, you can find our ancestors building monument.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, we can find ancestors building monuments, which proves that we were there before even the Chinese was there, before even the Russians was there, before even the Mexican was there. So we traveled the whole world. It wasn't like, to me, I looked at it like this. In my point of view, and the way I view it now, the whole earth belongs to me. I don't specifically say I belong to Africa. The whole earth. There was no borders when we traveled.
The whole earth belonged to you.
No, because here's the thing. I don't subscribe to no one group or landmass. That's why I don't accept that concept. I understand the concept and where it comes from, but I don't call myself an African. That makes sense. All right. So I don't call myself an African American. I don't call myself black. I don't identify myself like that. Now,
so you just call yourself an earthling?
No, I call myself a spiritual being having a human experience. That's that's how I identify me. Now, when I'm saying I'm black, I'm talking to somebody with a lower vibration, because a lot of you religious people are not going to understand my understanding of who I am.
Hold on, before you attack religious people like myself, I just want to ask you this question, because you did make you made some good points, and I just want to understand your understanding.
Yes.
Again, we can agree and disagree and all that stuff, but we do it respectfully. Okay, so this is something that's interesting, because I'm just showing geography here. That's the purpose of the little map, because there's a look here. And you said some things at the time And I just want to kind of clarify.
Gotcha.
Because it's kind of an origination argument. Again, we have to talk about origination. All people came from Africa, right? We're the birth of civilization. So my question is, you said that white people didn't exist. So I'm saying in this entire landmass, okay, this entire, the world that we see, you believe that white people did not exist at all. Now, I understand that you may have evidence to support the hypothesis, right? So, and you may even call it a fact, but I'm just saying you believe that only black people existed, there was no other people, and that we birthed all these other people. I just want to understand
Yes.
that.
Okay, so let's get this straight. So there are 2 different forms of melanin. You know what they are?
No.
Okay.
Explain.
Okay. There's uromelanin and there's pheomelanin. Okay. 2 different types of melanin. One melanin is the original, another melanin is a default or effective gene. Pheomelanin is spelled PHEO. You can look it up. EU melanin is EU melanin. EU melanin is a dark melanin. It takes in the sun and converts it into the energy in your body. Pheomelanin reflects and rejects the sun in a people. Those people, pheomelanin, are people who are pale. Neuromelanin depend on how dark you are, depend on how much melanin you have to you being light skinned. But if you got any color to your skin, you are of the EU melanin family. There's 2 different types of melanin. It's a science, right? And so Europeans didn't have no existence on the earth as far as if they were living in caves. There was no existence in them having any civilization at all during the time of what I'm describing as the first dynasty and those who came before the first dynasties, like the Nubians in Sudan, who was building over 200.
Okay, so you're saying that there was no evidence of a white civilization.
Correct.
That white people didn't exist at all.
Well, I said was before. Okay. I said before they came out the caves.
Gotcha.
They were in caves. Damn it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to clarify because I just want to understand, and that's a fair point because I think some people were probably on a different line of thought with that, and so it's interesting to hear your perspective on that. Yeah. That's all I kind of want to know on that. But yeah.
Okay. So again, the piece about the mummification, yes, I think the Egyptians had the mummification wrong. Their ideal to be mummified is that they thought they were going to come back to life. Well, they were wrong because not only they would have their jewelry and their gold buried with them, some even had their slaves could be buried with them inside the tomb, but they weren't. I'm sorry, I don't like using that word slave. That word slave did not exist then. There were servants because they treated those people with respect. People who knew how to build those pyramids, they were craft and skilled men. Right, so they had much respect for them. So some of the pharaohs wanted to be buried and mummified, wrapped up, mummified, and have all of their wealth placed with them because they believed that they would be reincarnated. Well, they were wrong because they got robbed, and they still robbing their tombstone today. That piece right there, I get. But the piece where you had Dr. I forgot his name. Well, I'm skipping my mind at the moment. Dr. Hotep. And when we talk about Dr. Hotep was the first scientist known on the planet. Not this white man that came out of Europe that came to be the father of doctor. We're talking thousands of years of how they healed our people with food and herbs before the Europeans even started creating medicine. They will call this witchcraft. And that's a European term. And so what I'm saying is that before then, we had a people that was living, they were called people of the sun. And so they were living way before these people that came out the caves even existed or even knew how. White people were raping their children. They were dirty. They were filthy. They didn't know how to wash. They were raping their mamas. And you can study the Moors of how the Moors even cleaned them up and taught them how to stop doing that shit, right? And so now you look at white people, you look at them different, but you don't know that their history was extremely barbaric. Arabs too, because the Arab race came up out of the Greek race, right? And so you just had that mixture of those two of the Greeks and the Romans. but they were extremely barbaric. And so wherever they went, they destroyed land. It's the same thing going on right now with white people. Everywhere they go, everything they touch, whether it's touching language, right now they're making GMO foods. Right now we are poisoning the water, we're poisoning in the air, because there's a certain people do not respect nature. If you're going back to time, you got to understand that there's an alignment with nature to try to live within nature. There are certain foods that we need to start eating that white people can't get the same absorption from it as we get. We have two different diets because why the chemical of ours is made up. Again, pheomelanin and neuromelanin are two different types of melanin. It didn't mean that they can't mix, but with that, boom, nice book. Yes, sir. Yeah, Dr. Africa, love him. And so when we're talking about that, we are kind of missing the point if we're not excluding white people out and get them out of this discussion of where we got our information from. Because if you got your information from them, from the pheomelanin people, that is so much of a tainted knowledge.
Right, I understand that point of view. I think that, again, when you're talking about Egypt, it was an advanced civilization, right? But the rest of the African continent was not advanced civilization. But they did do trade. And
Yes.
they had their own cultures and they had their own religious practices that were not Egyptian, which was
correct.
one of my conversation at the time.
Yes.
And so, there are powerful kingdoms in the West African region that, I think that we all can brush up our studies on. The Mali Empire, you had the Mansa Musa, the Ghana Empire, the Songhai. All those empires are more closely related to us Black Americans. This is what I'm talking about, because we came by way of the transatlantic slave trade. Again, just talking geography, we came from this region here to the Americas, did not come from over here, came from here. And so, again, we get into our so-called roots. What were those things? What was that like? And then why is it that whatever the Egyptians were doing at that time, and even the West Africans, whatever they were, practicing, which we know some of those things like Yoruba and stuff like that, and the spirituality stuff, why is it that most of those things have been abandoned? You still have, some people that still practice those things, but most of the people in the African continent are Islam or Christians. And nobody is forced to maintain those religious practices today. They can easily turn back and go to Egyptology or go back to Yoruba, go back to any Voodoo or whatever they want to do. Why is it that they freely hold on to Christianity and Islam and reject Egyptology and all these other, tribal things, spirituality and religious? Why? What is your answer on that?
My answer is simple as this. It's the same thing that Egypt, or it's the same thing as the continent of Africa. Those who live there do not understand the value on the land that they're standing on. This is why they're trying to race to America, while the foreigners like the Chinese and the Europeans are buying up Africa because of the minerals that are in the ground. See, some people accept religion and you become belief in it because why? I just explained about the neurotransmitter of the theta wave, of where you are taught something and you begin to believe it to the point to where you ain't gonna leave. You got Christians right now today, they ain't gonna leave that crap, no matter how much you tell them how Christians enslaved us and brought us here in slavery and whooped us and beat us and said, hey, believe in Jesus. And you ain't gonna leave it when you find out. I can put that in your face and show it to you, but you'll still believe in Jesus. You see what I'm saying? So that's the same thing. That's like asking yourself, if I prove to you that it was the Christians that enslaved you, your same religion, they didn't allow you to be a Christian, first of all, and then all of a sudden they free you and you willing to run in there and be a Christian. And that's the same thing about that in Africa. Right now today, we have African Americans who has been bondage through the religion of Christianity that still accept that crap today instead of questioning and saying, why am I a Christian when they were so brutal to me and my people? You see that part.
So because anybody can learn any religion you want.
Correct.
And so just because someone teaches you something doesn't mean that you have to hold on to it or even believe it. So people come across different.
But you asked me the question and I answered it. Right, but you asked me the question and I answered it in the same frame that African Americans are holding on to Christianity when it's been proof that it's what has brought us into this condition. Same thing. Same thing.
But that doesn't actually answer the question because I mean, Egypt and all these places are covered with Islam and Christianity.
Now they are, brother, but they weren't
Yeah.
then because Islam and Christianity did not exist back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But once it came on the scene, people converted.
Converted.
So why do you think that they converted?
Oh, brother. Oh, let me ask this question again. During the time of sub-Saharan slave trade, you were of that, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Who were they?
The people from the South?
No, who was enslaving people during the sub-Saharan slave trade? And who was enslaved?
You had different people. You had the Arabs and you had the Portuguese.
Okay, so and the Arabs is the one that is the author of Islam, correct? I don't know if you know. I practiced Islam for over 20 years, and I had been an imam over several years ago. Okay, so yes, I'm giving you a little information. It was the Arabs that enslaved them.
But they're all in. I'm just saying, like they're all in this region, though, right? When geographically, they're all in this region, Northern Africa, and this.
Brother,
right?
you asked me how did they become Muslim. I'm trying to explain it to you. That ain't got nothing to do with
I'm saying those Arab people you're talking about, whatever, they all from that same region.
Correct.
And
I'm telling you how they conquered the people.
Yeah.
Just the same as the Christians conquered the people. This is why South Africa, this is why Southern Africa is mostly a Christian nation, because of those crusaders went and killed people who didn't accept Christianity, just the same as the Arabs were killing people who didn't accept Islam. So can you imagine I'm being killed, I'm being slaughtered? I would accept it just because I don't want to be slaughtered. You know, that's the same thing that happened with black people here in this country. We accepted Christianity because we thought the white man would accept us if we accept their God.
I disagree with that, but I'll let your point stand. I think that when you're dealing with, again, logic and reason with humans, because you have to assume that humans don't understand how to use reason or logic. I think that the reason why a lot of the people actually converted to Christianity or Islam, it was not by force, it was actually by choice, because they saw value. They saw some sense of value versus that gave them a better benefit than whatever it was that tribal Africanism and all this other ancient, stuff that whatever you want to call it, but try not to offend anyone, but Egyptology, whatever it was, the people found more value in this as it was a more superior. It's just like anything in the marketplace, right? And you understand economics. I hear you guys talking crypto, this, that, and the third. Value is subjective. And so what reigns supreme is the thing that delivers the most value. When you're talking about your companies, the stocks, well, they stay in business because they deliver the most value at a low enough price. And so, and that has to translate to the people at the end of the day. And people have to digest that information. Like, okay, I can get that same good. I can get more ounces and I can spend less money. I'm going to take that. It's more value. And so that's the reason why they accept it. That's why you spend the money. Now, I think that the conversation has to extend to that, because you have to assume that all people are just dumb.
No, I'll assume this. Did we come over here as Christians when we was captured and brought over here on ships? Yes or no?
We didn't come over here as Egyptians. Or
No. Come on now. What you're doing is gaslighting. You're switching.
I'm gaslighting.
I'm asking you a simple question, and I know because you are emotionally attached to it, you may not want to answer it. I'm gonna ask you. We came over here on the ship. Were we Christians? Okay. Yes or no?
We don't know what we were.
No. See, there you go.
Hold on.
Again. Now there we go again.
Let me finish. I'll answer your question. Like I just said, we don't know what we came here as, because again, if you're looking at Egypt, nobody from Egypt got transferred.
Brother, who's talking about? Listen, get rid of the Egypt. Go back to South Africa. Go back to West Africa. Was West Africans Christians when they were enslaved? Yes or no? You know good and well they weren't, brother. Come on, quit playing. They weren't. And so
no.
Wait a minute. You talked about value. What you said was, here's what you said. You said, wait a minute.
And then when did Christianity enter the continent of Africa?
During the Crusaders.
No, before then.
Okay. Before then, before the Crusaders?
300 AD.
Okay.
Christianity was in Africa already. And actually,
through who? Through who? Through who? The Romans.
No, the let me actually Actually,
Yeah, let me finish my
was
point here before you gaslighted me into another
no, I'm
question.
saying Christianity was already in Africa in 300 AD. That's what I'm telling you.
Of
It was
course.
already in Africa. Ethiopia, that whole region has, the evidence. They have big churches engraved in stone from 300 AD.
The concept.
No, the religion itself was already being practiced in Africa, in that whole area, Kush and all that stuff. They've uncovered things in the whole Kush region with a black man who was I forgot who was the leader. He was a Kush leader, a Kushite, and with Jesus and Mary painted on the walls underground in Kush.
I get that. But let me ask you this question again. Let me go back to this question again.
Hmm?
When you made the statement that the people saw value in it and converted in it, that's what you said, right?
Well, so.
No, we're talking about why people converted. We're talking about why people converted. That's why we're talking about.
I got you.
So now tell me, how did Africans come right here in America convert to Christianity? You think they saw value in them being enslaved by the very people who call themselves Christians? Do you believe they saw value, or do you believe they saw fear?
No,
that's where we disagree.
So humans don't make decisions solely on fear. And then this is another thing. Through the transatlantic slave trade, if you make the argument that okay, black slaves were taught Christianity through slavery, the institution of slavery, and it was through fear. Okay, anybody that can read the Bible can tell that it's not a book of making you suffer or doing anything else. It's a book of great value. And so, although they had some of the priests, the preachers preaching certain things to obey your master, this, that, and the third, they could read. If you can read, you can read the entire book. The slave master could tell you to only preach this one page, but if you can read, you got the book, you can read the whole book, you understand the whole value. So these guys, they didn't just only preach that, they knew the whole Bible, okay? And so the thing is that even in that time, you had free African Americans that were sent back to Africa. There were actually some of them, the free slaves, right? You have countries like Liberia, right? That's where my family's from, that were free slaves that went back to the motherland. And when they went with them, nobody forced them to Christianity. They could have easily went back to voodoo, witchcraft, whatever they wanted to do, but they didn't. They held on to it because it somehow has some value in their life. So I think that it's a fallacy to assume that these people are just dumb and they have no logic and no reason, because again, all human action is to remove some type of dissatisfaction or to receive some type of satisfaction. That's the genesis of all the action. So there's some value there. If there was no value there, they would throw it away. The same way they threw away the Egyptologist stuff and the other religions, they threw them away. They didn't find the value in it.
I didn't throw it away, my friend.
You find value in it, and so therefore you accept it. But the other people don't find value in it, therefore they reject it and abandon it freely of choice, not by force.
So let's get into some of these comments real quick. We got a lot of comments and such, and I've been posting some of them. But let's kind of get, and I love that PT Tim Barnum is here. That's a guy, good friend of mine, and he is a European brother, and he's open to listen and talk. And El Patah kills me from the beginning, talking about start the main topic. He like at 9:11.
He's always trying to run some shit. Keep his ass.
Exactly. And at 9:11, he's like, hey, I want to, let's start the main topic. And I know he's gone, because if he was still here and he heard the Moorish conversation, then he would have been all up in it. You know what I mean? But it's all good. It's all good. It's another brother from another mother. But let's peep this as we jump into some of these comments here. Let's see. Michon, Uncle Michon gives us his books a lot of times. And he says, I am streetwise, layperson, believer, bottom up, and grassroots man, husband and father, a simple self-preservation, not extremely wealthy, but not extremely poor. I become more astute about my humanity and existence that makes me my own Messiah thinker, age 61, born, who after in America is specifically from the first generation of slaves, 1619 to 1865, who learned to unlearn, to relearn away from traditional European teachings based on color. All right. So, as he talks about being his own Messiah, then, that he reverences Reverend Moon, Sun Moon, just the same. So PT Tim Barnum earlier, he says, when did Islam appear? Anybody want to answer that real quick?
Yeah, actually, Islam appeared after Christianity. They used some of the same terms and terminologies that Christianity had in it. The belief in, they didn't call Jesus the miraculous birth. They just called Jesus a prophet. But they believe in Abraham and Abraham, the three Abrahamic religions, which is Christianity, Islam, and Judaism.
Got you. And as you guys were talking earlier, and you talk about emotions being tied to things, then PT Tim Barnum, he showed a bit of his card just the same, because he is a staunch Christian, and he kind of got a little emotional just the same, right? So Health Daddy Wild says, how can one get to the truth if you don't want to explain all areas? Okay, so
I think that I think that's a great question. Like, I think we're all trying to find truth.
Yeah.
The level, no man can possess all knowledge. I mean, that's just one of the things that we have to, to understand first of all. And once you understand that, that puts you into a humble position. And so that's why I can come here and humbly have a conversation with Brother John Yah. We can respectfully disagree and stuff like that. But the amount of knowledge that one needs to possess to connect all the dots and to go down the chronological timeline, your brain probably can't even fathom all of it. It probably just explodes. It's just so much. It's just such a wealth of knowledge. So that's why when I was having the conversation with the brother, I was saying, like, okay, well, we're talking Black Americans. Then what you try to do is, and again, it's something that you probably don't want to do, but kind of isolate situations in certain time frames, because you can't, like I said, we're talking, from, the 1400s all the way to, first, dynasties and stuff like that. So much time that has transpired, so many wars, so many leaders, so much has, it takes, years to understand that. And just reading a few papers, you're not going to be able to just amass all of that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why, people like Brother John Yah, myself, other people, we spend, our free time and trying to understand this stuff and getting as much as we possibly can, and then triangulate that information with other people. And, sometimes we may challenge each other's beliefs. And so from that, you come out with a stronger premises, because you say, oh, I can refine that way I thought about that because someone introduced a new concept to me that I didn't understand before, and it's sound and logic and reason, so it makes sense. So then you start to refine the whole process. But yeah, there's no way that you can really explain all areas, all knowledge, but you can get like a basic understanding of those type of things. And I think that's a good place to start. But you just, if you go into it, think you're going to know it all, because I used to be that way when I was an 18-year-old man. And when I left the Christian faith, that's one of the reasons I was like, I want to know my people. I want to know Black Keys. I want to know my Black stuff. And so I went down a rabbit hole. And then I eventually found myself back at Christianity. But again, that's my personal belief, and I respect your guys' personal belief. So
absolutely. Yeah. John Yah process to simplify, break down the intentionally to implement the Europeans' lens and color, indoctrination and inferiority teaching versus today's demographics people, ADS, American Descendants of Slaves, born specifically species on soiled us who just now freeing themselves to learning, to unlearn, to relearn what I call now being reborn after 400 years, 1619 to 2019, plights, overcoming racism in I Am Streetwise layperson. I think that maybe what we got earlier was the second half of that book there that he posted. PT Tim Barnum says, my understanding was that Egypt was on top of the world until the Exodus, Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. Would anybody agree or disagree?
So misunderstood.
Got you.
But there was no Exodus. That's biblical.
Got you. All right.
Yeah, again, that's one of those things where, if if you're a Christian, then the Bible has authority in your
Correct.
life.
There you have it.
And so if he's not a Christian, he's not going to respect
No,
that authority. So
no.
it's hard you can't really have a debate or argument with
Correct.
that. And I explain it to my Christian brothers and sisters, like, this doesn't have any value to these guys. So my only tool that I bring to the table is just logic and reason, because then we can relate on those.
Correct. Exactly.
Got you. All right, and let's see. Egyptians versus West Africans neither call themselves black. The color construct, indoctrination, and inferiority, systemic racism came from Europeans' demographics of people. Can you both agree on that truth?
Yeah.
I think when the Spaniards, the Portuguese, and all these people came down to the South, and they wrote. I mean, there's ledgers out there. These people writing about the black skinned people, the people from the dark lands, and so that's just physical. Like, I mean, you use your eyes when you see someone, and it's something like something that we do in commercial real estate and stuff like that. The government is all into this stuff, but one of the things that you do is nowadays they want to know what your race is, and if you refuse to answer, they expect the loan officers, whoever's doing the application, to take their best judgment or based off of what they see. So if I see you and you look like a black man, you might not be a black man. You might be an Indian guy, because some of those Indians, they blacker than you and me. And they might got fine silky hair, but their skin is black. They just use their best judgment. Says God was black. You have to do all of that because now they're tracking your race and stuff like that. So, but you use your eyes. You see, you can see somebody's darker hue and they're lighter hues. I don't think there's nothing offensive about it. It is what it is.
Speaking of the hues, when did the defective melanin appear? Is this connected with the 12 lost tribes of Israel?
When did what now?
The defective melanin.
Well,
when you were explaining that earlier,
the recessive gene. Yes, you have to look it up. Look up the word PHEO, pheomelanin, and then look up the word EU melanin, and you will see the science behind it. Okay, because there's 3 different types of melanin, where there's actually 4. The 4th one is the soil in the ground, which is dark black. So you get pheomelanin, EU melanin, and you have neuromelanin, which is neuromelanin is secreted out of the pineal gland that goes down the cerebral spinal cord that prepares all your nerves throughout your brain and your body. Okay, so that's neuromelanin, and it's very interesting because listen to this real quick, and I just want to add this in there. When you have neuromelanin, and neuromelanin is secreted out of the brain only during 12 at night, and it levels off because the pineal gland is a gland that secretes out, right? And so at 4 in the morning it ceases, it closes off. When dawn comes, or when the sun rises, when you allow the sun to hit into your eyes, the melanin, the neuromelanin in your gut converts into serotonin. It sends it back up to the brain and give you energy and give you thought patterns and everything, right? And then when the sun begins to set, it turns into melatonin, which calms you down and gets you ready to relax. Well, guess what? This is when I was talking about the effective gene, because they can't produce melanin the way we produce melanin. This is why they sell serotonin online, or sell it in grocery stores or drug stores. This is why they sell melatonin. But we got it naturally, right? And so the question becomes is, when I just explained to you how melanin is created, or how it's created, then where do you think they're getting it from? Where do you think they're getting it from to put it in a form? Because it's not in a plant, it's not in a rock, it's not in a tree. So how do you think they're using serotonin? It can only be converted in the gut of a human, okay? Same as melatonin. But we don't want to talk about where they're getting it from, because we don't want to talk about how we are actually lab rats. We don't want to talk about what they're doing with baby fetuses and how they're selling it to the pharmaceutical companies to produce these kind of medicines. Yeah, that's kind of deep, right? I get it. But if you go and study melanin and go and study serotonin, go Google it and say, what's the source? See if you'll find the source coming from the human being. But again, if you go and look at science, and Dr. Africa speaks on this very heavily about melatonin and the neuromelanin converting into serotonin and later converting into melatonin in the body. And white people don't produce that like we do. No, they have to go buy it. This is why their race is declining. They can't have as many babies as we can have. That's why their waist is going down, because there's certain things that they cannot do. So why, I don't know, but it was called a defective gene. right? And this is why they say white people have a limited time here. That's why their birth rate is declining.
So let
And
me
I'm not speaking racism. This is only facts. This is only scientific facts. And so, unless another science come back and say, hey, no, pheomelanin is not true, but other than that, you can Google it and look it up and you'll see it. I have a whole book on melanin.
Yeah, let me ask you this, brother John. So like, I don't know if you know about the classification of the three races, of mankind, right? The Negroid, the Caucasoid, and the Mongoloids. You familiar with the concepts, the
No,
science?
no, I don't subscribe to the concept of calling them racist. That's another European word that came later.
Okay, but yeah, so if you look them up though, the Negroids in Africa, the Caucasoids from here, and the Mongoloids from Asia, and so from there you derive all the different mixes of the races. Where you have some that have Negroid and Asian, which you'll see, and maybe the Australians, the indigenous people from there. But then you have the Europes and the Asians. That's closely the Caucasoid and the Mongoloid is closely related to the Native Americans. So with that whole genetic situation, you will find that most of the Negroid people were from the southern regions, here in the tropical zones, right? And then you'll see the Caucasoids up higher, and the Mongoloids as well. But I think that a lot of us, people have been mixing for forever. There's a lot
yes,
of
they have
like that. So
yes, sir.
So when you look at the people that's in the Egyptian region, that's why you have so many different types of people. Like not everybody got Negroid hair, but they may have skin dark as yours, but they may have like the Asian kind of silky hair.
Yeah, we're talking about today. We're talking about today, though. We're not talking about back then. We're talking about today.
Right. Well, none of us was existing back then. So I mean, we don't know. We just go off of what was recorded from what people saw. But even the people that recorded what they saw a specific place and time, not the whole entirety of the whole thing. They saw when they came and went to Kush, or they went to this is what they saw. They drew, hey, I saw black people in this land, or I saw these people in this place. But it didn't never encompass everything, because they didn't know everything. So that's why I'm trying to get people to say, let's understand some of the things of West Africa, right? And how that translated to the transatlantic slave trade. How did your ancestors get sold into slavery? Like, did the white man come and kidnap all the black people from Africa, or was it a fair trade? Was you traded like a commodity, like gold, silver, money, corn, sugar, anything like that? Like, when we talking in regards to slavery, I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think that most of us, and again, to Brother John Yah's emotional argument, most of us are not mature enough for that conversation. We're really upset about the whole institution of slavery without understanding that slavery existed from the beginning of time. It always has been a thing. Doesn't make it right, but it was just a part of
shouldn't we separate the kinds of slavery, though?
Well,
because
yeah, I think
American slavery is totally the
totally
European
different.
slavery, totally chattel slavery.
Yeah,
totally
I think
different.
you can further, break it down, but to have an assumption that it never existed, that would be a fallacy, right? So
but indentured servitude was not the same. Is nowhere near the same as a chattel slavery.
Here's what I mean by that. Slavery, you was captured. You don't have a choice. Indentured servitude, like what was going on in Egypt back then, building the pyramids, they had a choice. They were getting their wages to build that. They didn't have to do it. They were skilled labor. But we transfer that word servants to slavery because we view it through the lens of where we are here right now.
Right, but was it forced slavery? Was it forced slavery in West Africa? It was.
Right.
It was forced slavery because, correct, again, they were trying to build their empire. And if you didn't have production, again, you have to get back to the economic principles to kind of understand these things so we can develop some maturity around the conversation itself. I'm not speaking in terms of morality, right or wrong. I think sometimes we get things skewed when we think in terms of right or wrong. I think that, there's kingdoms in West Africa. You had the Mansa Musa, right? From Mali. Like when he went, and you'll see the same kind of behaviors in our ancestry that you see in people today. When they get money, they show it off. Well, Mansa Musa, he showed it off. I mean, forget Egypt. This dude was that dude. You feel me? Like, he went out like Birdman or whoever these rappers are. He was like that. When he went, he had over 60,000 people with him. I think they said he had maybe somewhere around 2,000 or 5,000 slaves or something like that went with him. when he went to the north, he's trying to bring commerce to his region. He's trying to do trade with other people. So he had to go and do a marketing piece. Like you see people out here, like you were selling the old guy on the crypto thing, you dangling the carrot from people, you showing people your successes, not showing your losses. So when he went, he came with, tons of gold, all this stuff to create trade and commerce. It was an economic situation. And you will see that, in the West African region, those tribes, they sold people like it was nothing. The Portuguese, they had a count that, the African tribal leaders would sell 12 people for one horse. But you think about it, they didn't have transportation. That's why I said you have to apply logic and reason. You're talking about primitive civilizations, and you have a horse, the same little horse you see on the back of a Lamborghini or Ferrari. That thing was something. That was your Lamborghini of the time. You got to think people traveled, whether you believe in the Bible or not. Moses and them, they walked the earth. The Egyptians walked the earth. I mean, travel was like really tough unless you were the Arabs who had the camels and the Spaniards who had horses. These are resources that specific lands had, came. And so, again, trying to advance a civilization, you need people, you need labor to be able to get that done. They valued that labor more than they valued the horses they had. So then you can strike a bargain, you strike a trade. Whereas our people value having them damn horses. We value having them damn camels because we got enough slaves. Okay, I'll give you a good 12 of them, give me one of those horses so we can haul material and we can build our civilization. And so that's the people that was working, there wasn't voluntary in all those situations. Though was forced, there's accounts that there was forced slavery because the kings, the people who ruled the land, these people were not benevolent people. They're just like any other ruler, any other monarch. They have an agenda. They're trying to get things done. And if you got people that's not actually being productive, again, economics, you got to have productivity because demand is always a thing. And so you got goods and services you got to supply. You didn't have enough people to build the irrigation systems, farming and stuff like that. So they forced them into slavery. This is the way it was always before the transatlantic slave trade. This is what I'm saying. This is what was already going on. It wasn't just we were living in some oasis and we had gold all over. Yeah, we had lots of gold and stuff, but it wasn't like you were living in heaven on earth. And I think that some people get that idea in their mind that we was in Egypt just living it up. It was just or wherever they think that we were. But that's not how reality works in civilizations.
Would you say that there was more of a respect for the human?
Well, again,
because this is where people of Caucasoid persuasion tend to grasp that what you just said and then say, see guys, there was slavery back then. I don't know what you're mad at now. There was slavery back then, but it was not the same type. Like chattel slavery is one of the most barbaric and gruesome forms of slavery that exists.
Yeah, but that came from the Arabs. The Arabs were the ones who started all that, beating. And so they taught, again, they taught each other. The Europeans didn't create that. They still have slavery in the Arab nations today in 2022. It still exists.
Yeah, the Arabs taught the Europeans how to enslave. Yes, exactly. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. And the mistreatment that you're talking about, they were taught that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's interesting, and this is, I love what Uncle Michon says here. What a Powernomics, elder versus younger, Claude Anderson terminology, language, dialogue, I believe is the 21st century conversation because now we are talking to each other. So this is great, elder versus younger conversation, which is absolutely awesome. Now, we were talking about brutality earlier of the European brutality. He says, P.T. Barnum says that brutality gave us today's 40 million African Americans, a civil war, and a no better place where African Americans can thrive. Is that the white savior complex?
I mean, I wouldn't chime in on it. I don't think that it's a white American complex. I think that it's an objective fact. I think that, and again, if you're a Christian and you can value the story of Joseph in the Bible, who was sold into slavery by his brothers. When I see African American plight, it's closely related to that than anything else. Because Joseph, who was sold into slavery, was then later, in charge of everything. He saved the Egyptians. He saved the Egyptians. He saved the Pharaoh. He prophesied, the famine that was coming, and he actually And this is Joseph with the colorful robe, you guys know. But he was actually in charge of basically economics for the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh made him second in charge. He went from slavery to second in charge. And he told the people who came to Egypt, because there was a famine that occurred, and also economic principles that you might not find in any other place but the Bible, where the currency failed. The Bible talked about matters of economics, which to me appears to be an historical record, not anything in religion. But what other book do you know that talk about currencies failing? All right. I don't think you can tell me about currencies failing in any other book, but the Bible actually has this in there in the story of Joseph. It talks about money. It talks about currency failing and how food became money. These are things that you can observe as cycles that happen over and over again. What do you think that's getting ready to occur here pretty soon with currencies failing and things like that? Food becomes money. You can't eat a Bitcoin. You can't eat none of that, but you got to have food. So the Bible actually described it in the story of Joseph. Joseph actually basically saved Egypt. Egypt, he stored up all this, he stored up all the seeds, all the corn, everything in silos. So the other people, the other nations were flooding to Egypt to get that, because the currency that they had was worthless. It became worthless. They couldn't buy anything. And so they asked Joseph, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to die because the currency is worthless. Give us some wheat, give us some grain so we can grow some food and stuff like that. And Joseph did trade with him. He said, hey, give me some of those cattle. The people sold all their possessions to Egypt, basically. They sold all the possessions to Egypt.
With all that said, are you saying that slavery benefited us here in this country?
Yes. And it's weird, but bear with me.
Yeah,
please. Bear with me. When you look around the world, when you look at America, which is, the American dream, you have the most freedom, not all the way free. We need more freedom here, and so we can have more prosperity. But this is the place where you actually do that at. In the other places around the world, their standard of living is far lower than ours. When most African Americans talk about this, they have no place to compare. Everything is alternatives. There's always alternatives to something. So you say something is superior, you're saying that this way of living is superior. The Egyptians' way of living is superior. Then I need to I need to subscribe to that, or whoever's way of subscribing. The American experience is the best, although it's not evenly distributed between everyone. You still have pockets of people that's poor and stuff like that. But even our poor have a higher standard of living than even the people that's in Africa today.
So you're not saying that slavery benefited us?
I can hear you. I want to grab my charger from my laptop real quick. Yeah. Keep talking. Okay. I can hear you.
Okay. So it sounds like he's not saying that slavery benefited us here in America. What he's saying is that the opportunity here in America has been greater than around the world.
Listen, the last thing I want to do is right. The last thing I would want to portray is that the white man's our savior, because you're saying that we were dumb and that we were some type of barbaric, that somehow he cleaned us up. No, we cleaned his ass up. And so no, I don't. That term right there is so offensive, to act as though as if it wasn't for white people, we wouldn't be in this condition. That don't rub me well.
Yeah, because you can't really talk about.
I agree, but that's not what I'm saying.
History could have went a totally different way had things been left alone, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we have the highest standard of living in comparison to our other brothers and sisters around the world. This is a fact, okay? Because we live in the American dream. Now, the way, again, I wouldn't choose it, but I would. It's a weird kind of thing, but if it wasn't for that, like I said, if it wasn't for Joseph's brothers betraying him, selling him into slavery, who sold a black man into slavery? Your own black brothers and sisters in Africa. They never left. They're still there. They know their heritage. They know their roots. They have their names. They have their names. They have their real names. They don't have to rename themselves Muhammad or none of that. They still there. They never left. They were never captured, but we were. The story reminds me exactly of Joseph in the Bible, who was sold into slavery by his brothers, and then later appointed to a position of power and greatness. He came back, and he didn't crucify his brothers and sisters. He didn't hold on to it.
Breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit.
All right, you guys hear me now? Is it better?
You got kind of choppy. I don't know if that you said you had a battery issue.
Yeah, I'm plugged in now.
Okay, we can hear you.
All right, got you.
All right, you guys can hear me now. But like I was saying, with Joseph in the Bible, his brother sold him into slavery. And he was later appointed to a position of power where he then later in return blessed his brothers and his father after they betrayed him and sold him into slavery. And so the the African American story is exactly the same. We were sold into slavery by our brothers and sisters over in Africa, coastal West Africa, like a commodity. And that through that avenue is the reason why we're in the promised land. So I wouldn't choose it, but I wouldn't change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, here's the point that I would agree is about America is its Constitution. Number one.
We just need
but I don't give praises. Huh?
We just
What'd you say?
Follow the Constitution. They, these politicians.
Right. See, I agree with the Constitution because the Constitution affords us the ability to kind of be able to come up with an ideal, and then I can produce that ideal. I'm a business person myself, and I've had a lifestyle of being a convicted felon and everything. But because of the Constitution, I'm able to get a business license. I'm able to drive a car. I'm able to get a passport. I can move in and out this country. Now, well, with that said, that wasn't designed for us. That came later. The Constitution was not designed for us when they wrote it. No, it wasn't. It made us 1/3 of a human being that have the right of white people. First of all, so
the Constitution did not do that though.
The
Constitution did not do that though.
No. What I'm saying is the Constitution did not apply to us as come to being free. It allowed us to be free, but when they wrote the Constitution, they didn't write it in our favor, is my point I'm making. We end up learning and using the Constitution to gain our freedom, okay? But them white people didn't favor us. They didn't, none of that. We fought for what we got right now to get out of that condition, number one.
No, I disagree. The Constitution itself, the way it's written, you can read it now. The Constitution, and people don't know the 10 amendments. The first 10 amendments, the first 10 amendments, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all those things. I mean, they didn't have anything to do with race. When you read the document itself, is what I'm saying. When you read the document itself, it can be applied to any persons.
Correct.
And that's why it's like a universal document. Although slavery existed and there were racist people, when they wrote that Constitution, they didn't, put in there that black people can't do this and have no freedoms and none of that stuff. It was not about race. So that's what I'm saying. The document itself is universal. It can be applied to any people. So I think it's a great document and again, like it doesn't give people rights. First of all, people think the government gives people rights. It doesn't. The Bill of Rights is actually to protect our rights, to protect our freedoms that comes from God, or if you want to call nature or whatever, it's the respect that we get our rights from God. And the Constitution is created to protect our rights from a government that will usurp it, because all other civilizations before all were kings and queens, where the people were under the foot of the kings and queens. You worked to serve the lords, the kings. You worked to serve them. You didn't have freedom. If they wanted you to be a carpenter, that's what you were for the rest of your life. You didn't have the freedom to go and pursue your ideas, anything that you wanted to do. Like, you were basically enslaved. And America was that experiment of freedom that allowed that to happen. So although there were racist people, that was, some of the founders or whatever were racist. Not all of them were. That was just the arrangement and civilization at the time. And America was one of the first places, not the first, but I think the second or the third place that actually freed the slaves. It was the British, and the Americas was the first place that, slavery was abolished. In those other countries, even in Africa, slavery was abolished later in life, so America has blood on its hands, but we've moved beyond that.
Got you. So this has been, bro, this has been one of the dopest conversations that we've had in a while. The fact that this even came about, or how this even came about, was dope in and of itself. And Pierre, I just want to say that, I really, really appreciate you, brother, for just being so open and willing to come forward. Because there's a lot of people. I mean, hell, last week we took a meme that had been being passed around by women on social media a lot. and rah and all of that stuff. And then when we went and reached out to different women who were posting that, nobody wanted to step up and talk about it, you know. And that's not a knock to women at all by any means, but just, you know, the idea that when you project something, you put something out there, you should be willing to back it up. You should be willing to come forth, talk about it, speak about it. If not, then you really shouldn't put it out there to the public. That's my personal opinion, right? But none of, you know, with that being said, then, I mean, this right here, I just appreciate you for coming forth and having this conversation. And I can see that this is a conversation that we can expound upon and talk even more about nonetheless. So I'm gonna say that you know, definitely I'd love to have you back to have some more conversation. You know, John, you know, what's your thoughts?
I appreciate you, brother. I think no doubt, as I listen to you, though, yes, we have several things we absolutely do not agree with, but much respect for where you're coming from and the knowledge that you have gained. Now, I heard you say several things before we even started, actually, of you giving your credentials. I was impressed with that and thought about your financial situation or you're talking about the financial area. We would love to have you on the show talking about that, because that's one of our areas of expertise in coming up with these shows. But let me ask you a question. You heard about the crypto stuff, and I heard you mention about finances. Where is your line drawn in that? Now, I see a comment that you made in the back room where it says a Trojan horse. What was that applying to?
Well, a good question. I'm glad you could ask me that. I believe in your hypothesis. I believe in your point of view. You know, I'm a little old school, but I'm an Austrian when it comes to economic training. And, you know, when I was in this place, thank you for putting the website, Wall Street Jack Boys, and we started this in 2015. You know, trying to teach everybody, the stock game and stuff like that. And so when the crypto came onto the scene, you already know it just flooded. And so again, you know, we put out this website and we, you know, reaching out to people. I used to do all my training for free, actually. And then we started building a little following and stuff like that. And so to develop the website, you know, you got, you know, expenses, right? So now I need some revenue. Right? So if we're going to make this professional, anything that I do, I got to make sure that it's the best of the best. So when you get on the website, you know, I can give you guys access so you guys can check it out. But it's top of the line. But a lot of people didn't show up, you know, and they still don't. A lot of our people that it was designed for. And again, I don't, you know, anybody who wants to learn, they're welcome to show up. But understand that I created it for the urban community because I wanted to, you know, reach back to them. You know, there's other people for everybody else. But what I had designed was for us, and it's a quality education. It's a quality experience at the same time. It's not raggedy or nothing like that. And I think we deserve that. So I'm going to put it out there. A lot of us didn't show up. A lot of foreigners and other people show up, right? So
exactly.
It didn't necessarily hit my people. And again, I don't tell people what to do. You know, that's not our methodology. We don't force people to do anything. It's entirely up to you on what you want to do. But if you want to know these things, it's available out there for you. And so ignorance is a choice in that regard, especially with the internet and so much technology. You guys got your podcast. Anybody can learn this stuff if you want to. You guys show up to class, but people don't show up to class.
Correct.
And so when the crypto hit the scene, people showed up for that. And the reason why is because it doesn't take the learning aspect. So learning is something that, you know, if you notice, and y'all are old enough that you know, it takes work to learn. I don't have this library here just for show. I literally read all this, you know what I'm saying? I spend most of my time in studying. I have to make sure that I schedule time for my family because that's real for me as well. But I spend a lot of time in study. I don't know all things. I'm humble in that. That's why I'm always constantly seeking knowledge. I do work in the financial markets. I'm a capital market analyst. I see all the flow. I create the flow and all that stuff. So being on the inside does take up a lot of time, right? You know, nowadays with the volatility in markets and stuff. But with crypto, the barrier entry is so low because, you know, the whole concept, like you're saying, was, you know, it's the greater fool theory. I want to try to buy at this low price and then hopefully I can sell it to another fool at a higher price. It doesn't have any value itself is subjective. And, you know, the people that's in the crypto space are really intelligent because they understand the subjective value theory. You know, the subjective value theory is that there is no objective value. Value is all subjective. It's all, up to, what you believe in. And so now you get into
What
a
you're
belief
willing to
system.
pay, right?
Well, it's a belief system. It's like
Yeah.
what Brother John Yah was talking about earlier about a belief system. This whole thing is a belief system. And so you do have a lot of people that are religious about, crypto. It's a belief that they really believe in. And I'm not upset with them for that belief. I actually share that same sentiment that I don't like central planning in our life or our money. I think that, it should all be decentralized. I just don't think that crypto is the way to go about it. I believe that, in my personal opinion, and we can have a conversation at a later time, but I think that it's a Trojan horse. And just like Brother John, y'all was telling the brother earlier that do you really think that the government is going to allow you to usurp it, like to overthrow they already know everything. And if it's digital, it can be hacked. You're talking to a guy, I write artificial intelligence programming, all of that stuff. I have certifications and all of that. And then, yeah, if it's digital, it can be hacked and it can be traced. So, I think, and I agree with you that, again, it's a Trojan horse. And when I say the Trojan horse, I mean, you got to see the end game. I'm a chess player, so you got to see all the moves.
Okay.
And you have to see them to their logical conclusion. So I think a lot of the young crypto guys don't understand the logical conclusion of this whole thing. And if you actually play it out like a chess game, you will come to the conclusion that it is a Trojan horse. Why? Like you say, a lot of people say, well, money is worthless. They don't quite really understand what they're saying. They're just repeating stuff that they're talking about. Money itself, even if it's paper money, think about it this way, and I like to break it down to make it simple. If you want to make transactions untraced, unknown by anybody, whether it's the government, whether it's your wife, you creeping around on your wife, you want to book your hotel, you're going to do what? You're going to spend cash money.
That's right.
Because you want to make moves in society untraced.
That's right.
If it's digital, and you said China have the digital renminbi that they're actually lottering around, trying to, they're flooding in their system. And, you can't even spend cash in China over there. They'll laugh at you. Like,
that's right.
Accept that. Because, China is a communist control. They, here, luckily we have a democracy. That's why I say you still got to appreciate the American experience, man.
Right.
And China is total control, and we need to avoid, total control. And that's what they want. And through currency, I think currency itself, not just currency, not even this currency, but just a medium of exchange. Exchange in itself is a divine operation. It's something that's always existed from the beginning of time. And that the central planners, they want access to that. Because like I said earlier, no man has all knowledge, but what the central planners want is all knowledge. And so because of technology, they want to utilize technology to be able to gain access to all that knowledge. Because if you had all knowledge, you can eliminate risk. You have risk because we don't have all knowledge. And all knowledge, again, your transactions, even in the Bible, it talks about Revelations, how, you're not going to be able to buy and sell goods if you don't have the mark of the beast. This is an economics principle. I'm not even talking about spiritual, but economics, this is something that's logical. You can't buy and sell in the marketplace, you will surely die. That's why I believe that, economics itself is a divine, operation. And central planners, they want to control it. So if they know all your transactions, they can control your transactions. I heard Mark Cuban. I know a lot of you guys respect Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
I think he has some socialist ways. He made this proposition under the lockdown with COVID. He said, hey, we got to get because they believe these Keynesians, the Keynesian economics, they believe that like spending is, economic, growth. They believe that spending. So they're always trying to find a way to keep people spending, and people stop spending. Again, you're looking at recessions and things like that. So he was like, well, a way that we can keep people spending money is that we create them accounts with the Federal Reserve, a digital account, and then we issue them stimulus money through this system. They skip the banks. Banks is out of the story. Banks is, they're going to be destroyed, basically. They don't want to go to the banks no more, right? Just go straight to the central bank. And the central bank, everybody will have wallets with the central bank, the digital currency, central banking digital currencies. This is why I'm talking about the Trojan horse of crypto, because it's a belief system. But once you have your account with the central banks, what they do is they issue you money like China's doing right now. They have a lottery. And when people have money, when people get money, it's a psychological behavior thing. Money don't have nothing to do with math and numbers. People don't understand. Money is all behavior. When people get money that they didn't work for, they didn't have, they will spend it surely. Okay. So they want to lottery give you money and then expect for you to spend it. But not only that, but punish you if you fail to spend it, which also forces you to spend the money, which they believe will create economic activity, which, that's what they want to keep inflating. They believe that they can do this scheme. And, if you get some money in your account like the Chinese doing right now, you're going to spend it. You're not going to just let that go away, because people, first of all, don't want money. People don't understand the concept of money anyway. People don't want money. People want what money can buy.
That's right.
Money is just a medium of exchange. Anything can be a money. I was at the gold mine yesterday, and they didn't even know. One of the instructors was talking about how in Germany he went to this place and they were exchanging through cigarettes, Marlboro cigarettes. People value those things. They're using this for money. And he's like, I've never seen nothing like that. I said, they do that in prison, right? Cigarettes is money in prison.
That's right. That's right. It's currency. That's right.
Yeah, it's just the media of exchange to get the things that we want. So we want what money can buy. We don't want money.
Correct.
And so I think that with the whole, cryptocurrency coming on the scene, don't nobody know who Satoshi is. This is just miraculously show up and it's going to liberate the people, this, that, and the third. It's all digital. When it's digital, it's controlled. You need money out of the system, whether it's gold, silver, any other commodity. It doesn't matter. If it's in the real world, it can't track it. They can't trace it or control it, and they don't like the fact that they can't. So therefore, going to digital is a part of their plan. So they can get you to mentally adopt a cashless society. They want you to mentally adopt it and have this belief in whether it's crypto. And yeah, you may have some crypto and a lot of speculation. People, some people made money in speculation in the market, but most people lost money in Bitcoin. And like Brother John, y'all was telling these guys, y'all haven't lived long enough to understand this stuff. This is not the first iteration. These things happen in cycles. I encourage you to check out.
Oh my God!
Check out Ray Dalio's new book, The Changing World Order. He talks about, again, this is the largest hedge fund manager in the world. You ain't got $1 billion, you can't manage your money if you ain't got $1 billion. And he has the technology, the tools, the smarts, and the analysts where they done recreated virtual, environment, so he can go back through history and they recreate the events as they occurred in history and feed him articles, and he has to navigate the markets to generate alpha. That's what he does. And so from there, he discovered these cycles and stuff like that. He has 5,000 years, going back to the Chinese empires and stuff like that. And he talks about how money goes into a cycle, type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 1, you start off at hard money. That's gold, that's silver, that's anything that's a real asset, real commodity, meaning that it gets its value from its real world use. It always had value because it's always going to be in demand, like gold or jewelry or whatever the case may be. And from there, you go into a paper money, which is type 2 money, currency, right? Fiat. And then from fiat system, type 3 money is a credit system. You go to credit. So from hard money, asset, fiat, credit, cycle back over and over. So from the credit, we're in a credit system right now. It's all credit right now. So from credit, based off of his research and everything, it always in history goes back to hard money. It doesn't matter. People say, oh, it's new technology. It's always new technology. Technology. You think that the Egyptians didn't have technology? What do you think they was? Come on, those advanced civilizations always had technology. Nothing new under the sun. So you just got different players. They may have different, vehicles for, but it's all the same. And all the bubbles are all the same. The Austrians actually discovered the business cycles. Actually, Professor Ludwig von Mises, him and Professor Hayek, they discovered these business cycles, and you have to credit the Austrians with that. Not that other people didn't, but we're talking about, when the economic science has been developed, as we know it, you have to give credit to these guys. I'd be interested to see that, some of those ancient civilizations understood these things. They probably didn't have classes for them, but I'm pretty sure they were doing trade. They were doing economics. That's how Egypt blew up the way it blew up, So anyway, I think that the danger in crypto, and I'm all for liberation. I agree with you guys on that, but I think that the route we're going about it is a Trojan horse, because once you adopt this whole digital thing and you stop using cash, you stop using hard assets, now it's easier to transfer you over to central bank and digital currencies, which you have been freely given up power that you thought you were actually reserving for yourself. You have given it to the central planners. This is all part of their plan the whole entire time.
Exactly.
So I like to fight against that. And I keep, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. That's my belief. You don't hold it, you don't own it.
Man, I appreciate that, brother. I really appreciate where you stand in that financials, because I believe crypto is a trap. I believe it's just what you said. It's something to get us to buy into. And they tried us out with that. They gave us a little stimulus package. Did you know how that worked? When they were giving black people didn't want to go back to work. So I knew it was a plan. That that's the way they're going to work it is you ain't got to have a job. They're going to give you a card, right, and put money on it and punish you when you don't act right or do right, like they do in China right now. So that's why I'm an anti-crypto guy. I don't believe in it, and a lot of you new guys are into it because it's a little quick way of getting money, but you don't know the history of these people. And to assume that somehow you can have money, that is the greatest mistake that these misunderstood young guys believe in. But I'm glad you point that out. I really appreciate you on that.
I appreciate you on it, man. I'm glad you even asked me because I was listening. I was like, this guy, I believe the same thing that you believe. We got the same mind frame, same structure, because that's the logical conclusion. You play it out any kind of way. In order for Bitcoin to work, it means that Bitcoin has to overthrow the government. And I am all for us overthrowing the government, trust and believe me. But to think that the government, the central planners, as we call them, are going to allow Bitcoin to usurp them, you got to be out of your mind, because one thing that government always must have a need to control its money. All governments always have the need to control its money. They can't control Bitcoin, and that's a value that people like. The government can't control it. Well, that's the same thing that's going to bring it to its death. They are allowing Bitcoin to operate in the way that it is because it is not a threat to the dollar or anything else in the system. They are allowing it to operate. And once they get ready to crush it, they will surely crush it. They can either sabotage it or they can outright ban it. You heard of legal tender. You heard of legal tender. You know, it's got to be legal. You know, if they outlaw it, you know, what you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Sabotage it or they can outlaw it. You know?
Yeah, man, that right there, that's the piece right there. And definitely got to have you in on this conversation when we start talking crypto versus the dollar. I think when we had that conversation before, we didn't do it the justice that we needed to. And I think this time, having more professionals on, John, I'm damn near going to use the same flyer for it, because we're gonna have the professionals there, and as the people are seeing now, this brother is fluid. He's in his lane. Okay, teach young brother. You know what I mean? So you're getting your flowers right now, because people are listening. Like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, this, you know, he's spitting it now. It's, you know,
hey, just ask the dope boys if dollar got a value. They ain't got a shoebox full of Bitcoin. You can't hold it. You can't touch it. They shut the computers down. You can't access it. That money's still good in the streets. It's still good in the hood. You got the shoebox full of money. You make your transactions in it. The hookers, the prostitutions accept it. Ain't nobody accepting no damn crypto.
That's right.
Look, this is fabulous financial cousin right here, right here. FABOLOUS. Hey man, I'm telling you, this is good stuff right here. And you know, I definitely can't wait. You know, y'all want to do this conversation? Well, I tell you what, we'll refer to John, because we're gonna reach out to a couple professionals and get them on, as well as yourself, in having just.
Would you love it? Would you love to be in that conversation, brother, with us?
That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, Mr. John, I would love to, man. I'm definitely down for it. Like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes and trample over people's beliefs and stuff like that. But if I can add any value to the conversation, you guys believe that I can add value to the conversation, I'd love to be there.
Yes, you can, brother. You can definitely add value to. I think your knowledge and where you are working in the financial field is perfect. That's why I was wanting to bring my financial advisor, Edwin Fox, who works with Raymond James, and he stays in my ear. He was in my ear 20 years ago when I first started my business, and a very knowledgeable brother. I think you and him will definitely. Poof, right? You know, I think y'all would be, because you know you're actually in that space of talking about currency and money, and you understand where currency is going and how dangerous it is to remove paper currency off the street and then get us, because I always said crypto is a trap. It's not a product, it's not a company, or it's not a service, and it can disappear just as fast as it came by a switch of a button, and that right there is scary as hell.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Hey, any matters of economics, definitely have me on, you know, inflation and stuff like that, so people can really, you know, grasp these concepts. Have me on for that too. Yes, a lot of people don't understand, you know, all this stuff is economics, man. But when people think about economics, they think in math, they think in, you know, the statistics and stuff like that. And Professor Mises, you know, I don't know if you guys know Dr. Thomas Sowell, Dr. Walter Williams, and all these guys. They've all studied, you know, Mises. And then you have people like Milton Friedman. All these guys studied under Mises, you know. But Mises was hardcore. You know, he never won a Nobel Prize. One of his students, Friedrich Hayek, F.A. Hayek, actually won a Nobel Prize. And this is a book that he has called The Road to Serfdom. Man, I definitely have to recommend this to you guys. And this was written in the 40s, but everything that you see in this happening right now, this guy, he definitely put it all in here, everything, man. The
Let me put
news.
that up again. Okay, got you.
Called The Road to Serfdom. Yeah, he won a Nobel Prize, but Mises didn't, because Mises is not a compromiser. Mises doesn't do deals with the devil. He didn't want to do nothing with the government, and so because they couldn't use, his economics, to help the government, they didn't give it to him. But he created the whole, framework, so that you guys can understand what's actually happening in the system. And so it doesn't matter what they say inflation is right now. They're lying about inflation. But people don't understand these concepts. But if you go take a look at this stuff, you'll understand and what economics has to do with anything, right? It's not math. People keep thinking it's math, and that's why you stay away from it. They don't want to talk about it. It's all human action. All economic activity comes from us acting in the system, us acting where we buy. And the central planners want to control where you spend your money at. They want to actually control that. That's something that you have to understand. I know people ask questions all the time. How can we, as Black people, build wealth? How can we do this, that, and the third? Well, you're going to need freedom. And I know Dr. Claude Anderson, I'm familiar with his work. Yeah. And, he talked about like how they had his business back in the day, how they was doing really good. And then when you end up getting, integration that people ask for, then you muddy the waters where, you can't keep it all to yourself. It's all spread out. And so anyway, that's a whole different topic. But yeah, I would love to be on for that with you guys, man.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. Definitely. Yeah. This has been an awesome show. This is the best financial show, even though we kind of started out on one area, but this has been awesome, brother. I appreciate you. I really
have more dialogue with you because I still respect you. I respect my elders. You have a wealth of knowledge, and it was fun, man. I'm glad to even meet you guys.
Yes. All right, brother.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Until next time, we'll be in touch as far as this next conversation about money, finance, currency, economics. Even with what you just said about, people think economics is math and such like that. It forced me to go define the word eco versus the word nomic. And then understand how they synergistically relate to each other when you say the word economics. So I encourage anyone else to do just the same. But man, just good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate you. Until next time, family.
All right.
Hey, man. John. Woo! Fucking dope, bro. I mean, this was good stuff.
He gave me goosebumps. And what's interesting, you know what goosebumps are, right? Goosebumps is when you hear something that you are so aligned with that it rises your frequency. It makes your frequency just whoop. So yeah, he really brought it. I appreciate it. I appreciate the dialogue that we had, even when we're talking about the history and everything. We just had a few little bumps, but it doesn't make me right or make him wrong or any of that. But it was a great discussion, great dialogue. We got a lot of information in. I hope the listeners really grabbed a piece of that. And listen, everybody who's listening, please share this content. This content was really heavy for us. Yeah. I enjoyed it so much that this is like a staple show that we really need to put out there. So this was dope as hell.
Absolutely. Gonna have to pay for some editing here on this one for real. Absolutely. But man, with that being said, it's almost sad to come to an end. But again, folks, we will be here same place, same time next week, right here, the Tipping Point Morning Show. Oh, and I want to let y'all know, check us out, just like it says here on the banner, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. If you don't type in the Tipping Point Show and or Tipping Point Morning Show and see us there, then guess what? It's coming. It's all been there, submitted, accepted, and all that good stuff. So nonetheless, folks, we're making it even easier for you to carry us with you in your pocket. You don't have nothing to do, then guess what? You just chilling at the doctor's office. You got your headphones. Go ahead, jump on one of those platforms and go ahead and listen to a recap of any show that is from the past or what have you, folks. I promise you will enjoy it. Shout out to my other showmate for NPAD, No Panties After Dark, the relationship conversation congregation. Hey,
y'all had a dope show, man. That was pretty dope.
Hey, you know, we it's all about it was a savvy name there. It grasped people's attention and be like, what the heck? No Panties After Dark. What is that? It's a relationship conversation congregation, folks. We talk about relationship issues, stuff like that, every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all of those same platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram Live, just the same. So, again, just a great show here today, man. Appreciate you. And until next week, bro.
All right, brother. Love you.
All right. Love you, fam.
Peace.
Peace.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. Right here on WLOU. Stream it live on Facebook and WLOUonline.com. And now, The Tipping Point Show.